Good morning and welcome to City Hall. We're going to get started with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Deborah Todd is here. She is a pastor at Village Christian Church, which is in the Village, I would assume, right? Great to have you here. She has recently relocated from California and is living out in Surrey Hills. And it's wonderful to have you and your husband in our community.
Thank you.
Afterwards, I'll ask Councilman Griner, Phil, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. But would everyone please stand?
Will you please join me in prayer? God of many names, Almighty Creator, Lord, Abba, Mother, Father, God, we come before you this morning representing a variety of faiths, neighborhoods, districts, and interests, but united as women and men dedicated to making our city a better place for all who live, work, worship, and play here. As we do the business that is before us today, let us do so with the ability to listen and hear one another, to keep the best interests of this great city in mind, and with the vision for what the future may hold. We are humbled to serve as a voice for our communities. We lift up to you this morning our mayor and our city council. Guide each one of them by principles and morals greater than any one of us, so that the City Council can make decisions for the good of all of Oklahoma City's residents. Where we are divided, grace us with a unity of spirit to strive for good so that your will may be done. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to start this morning with a proclamation about Jazzfest Week. Mike McAuliffe is here, Brian Gorell, everybody that's here with Jazzfest, come on up. We have a proclamation. I'll ask the clerk to read it as we get settled.
Whereas the second annual OKC Jazzfest will celebrate America's original music art form and recognize Oklahoma City's jazz history and contributions to jazz music, and whereas the OKC Jazzfest will take place September 21st through 26th in the Arts District, the Film District, Midtown District, Boathouse District, and the Bricktown Entertainment District, including historic Deep Deuce, the birthplace of Oklahoma City jazz. And whereas the OKC Jazzfest will honor Dr. Kent Kidwell, a musician, educator, principal trombonist with the OKC Philharmonic for over 20 years, a member of the Oklahoma Jazz Hall of Fame, and the founder of the nationally recognized University of Central Oklahoma's Jazz Studies program, as the 2015 Oklahoma City Ambassador of Jazz. And whereas the 6-day Jazz Festival will feature some of Oklahoma's greatest jazz musicians, as well as performances by elementary, high, and college music students. Whereas American pianist, composer, and producer David Benoit will perform Friday evening, September 25th at the Thelma Gaylord Performance Arts Center at the Civic Center Music Hall. And whereas the OKC Jazz Fest, the UCO Jazz Lab, and the UCO Academy of Contemporary Music will host a music workshop for high school music students from the Oklahoma City area. And whereas the OKC Jazz Festival supports student performances, workshops, and music education. And whereas the OKC Jazz Fest will host local sailors, officers, and their families in support of the 10th annual OKC Navy Days. Now therefore, I, Mick Cornett, Mayor of the City of Oklahoma City, do hereby proclaim September 21st through 26th, 2015 as Jazzfest Week.
Let's show our appreciation to those sponsoring Jazzfest Week next week. And Mike McAuliffe has been so instrumental in helping Jazzfest become a possibility. So Mike, thank you for your work. I know you want to thank some others.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, first of all, thanks to the Civic Center. The staff over there has done a great job working with us for our Friday and Saturday performances out on the lawn. So we invite everybody to come out and join us on the lawn the 25th and the 26th. Just bring your blanket, your chair, and we have jazz music Friday and Saturday. All the schedules and the information are on our website at okcjazzfest.com. What's important, Mayor, I think about the Jazz Festival is in the 40s, it's written in history, that's the first place in Deep Deuce that the blacks and the whites socialized. And it was to go down to Deep Deuce and listen to jazz music. So I say for no other reason, we should always have a jazz festival in Oklahoma City. And with the support of the Chickasaw Nation, St. Anthony's, Phoenix Restoration, and the UCO Jazz Lab, we do have a jazz festival. This is our second year. So we invite everybody to come join us, and I'd like Brian to introduce the students that played today.
Thank you. 3 of our students we have in our jazz program at UCO this year, over 120 undergraduate and graduate students studying jazz. We're very proud of the program that Dr. Kidwell started back in the early 70s, and this is his son, Jeff Kidwell, my colleague, and we work together every day with these wonderful students, and it's a great blessing for us. This morning you heard the talents of Raul Reyes on bass, this kid named Logan Gorel, I think I know him, on saxophone, and Brian Belanis on guitar. Thank you guys very much.
Again, thank you. Come out and join us. Visit the website at okcjazzfest.com, and you'll get a complete schedule of events. And again, thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time this morning.
Absolutely. Let's show our appreciation one more time. Thank you. Each month, the Rotary Club of Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City Schools Foundation helps us honor one teacher as our Teacher of the Month. And you can imagine in a city our size, to select one teacher is a difficult task, but we have done it once again. I'm going to ask Elizabeth Edgehati to come forward. And we have a resolution. I'll ask the clerk to read it.
Whereas Elizabeth Edgehati has been named Teacher of the Month for September 2015 by the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City, and whereas Elizabeth has been an educator for 6 years, all at Wilson Arts Integration Elementary in Oklahoma City Public Schools, whereas Elizabeth received her bachelor's degree in early childhood education from the University of Central Oklahoma, and whereas over the course of her career, Elizabeth has been recognized numerous times for her work as an educator, including Oklahoma City Teacher of the Year first runner-up, Wilson Teacher of the Year, and the Dr. Marie Scott Outstanding Early Childhood Award. And whereas Elizabeth serves on several noteworthy committees dedicated to improving education, such as the University of Central Oklahoma's Early Childhood Advisory Committee, and whereas Elizabeth is active in the continued professional development of teachers and promotes innovative teaching methods through the arts and through technology by leading professional development and serving as a smart notebook trainer. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby recognize and commend Elizabeth Edgehati on her selection as the September 2015 Teacher of the Month by the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City.
Let's show our appreciation to Elizabeth, and congratulations. There's one technicality we need to vote on this, so I'll look for a motion from council and a second. Cast your votes. There we go. It's unanimous. Thank you. Congratulations. I'll allow you the microphone.
I'm greatly and humbly honored to be receiving this award. I would like to offer my sincerest gratitude to the Oklahoma City Council as well as the Downtown Rotary for this honor. I did not make this journey here alone. Former Oklahoma Governor Brad Hettering once said, "A good teacher can inspire hope, ignite the imagination, and instill a love of learning." I've been blessed within my lifetime to be touched by many inspirational people who meet the above definition and have helped me to become the person I am today. From my mother, who instilled a love of learning in me, to my teachers who spent hours working to create a fun, inspirational, and safe learning environment, to my husband, Justin, who daily supports and encourages me. Each day I strive to honor these great individuals by influencing my students the way they have influenced me. In my classroom, we talk a lot about working together as an ensemble, which is defined as the united performance of an entire group. Teachers, legislators, community members, and parents must all work together as an ensemble to create a better world and provide children with the support that they need to become productive members of society armed with 21st century skills. Each time a child is made to feel encouraged, engaged, and empowered, we are changing the future. Imagine a world where every child receives the support on a daily basis, despite their background or socioeconomic status. To make this happen, we must all come together. To do our part, teachers must work to create a supportive and loving environment, one that makes each student feel encouraged and cherished. We must use innovative teaching techniques, such as integrating the arts and technology into our classroom to help engage students and meet their differentiated needs. Above all, we must be advocates for our students' best interest. Legislators must look to teachers to find the best ways to support education. They must back bills which preserve educational time and support children through funding early childhood education, a stronger infrastructure such as our MAPS project has done, smaller class sizes, technology, and the arts. Community members can support education and our future by serving as tutors and mentors. Community members can also support schools through funding needs such as technology for the classroom. As a child's first teacher, parents must support their child's education from the very beginning. This can be done through simple daily activities such as making grocery lists together or going to the library. Parents must also let their children know that they are loved and be a proponent for their child's needs. This is a call to arms. A call to arms to not simply let a child slip through the cracks. A call to arms to do everything within our power to help shape a better tomorrow. A call to arms to not simply sit by the sidelines, but make a change. Let's work together as an ensemble to make a difference in the world by encouraging, engaging, and empowering all children. Thank you.
I can see now why you've been selected. Thank you very much. And Elizabeth, I think Elizabeth and her school at Wilson have been one of the great turnaround stories in public education in Oklahoma City. It's been a cooperation of the Oklahoma City taxpayers who, with their Maps for Kids dollars, invested in some capital improvements. The neighborhood around the school decided they wanted to play a part, and they've also came in and helped instill an arts-oriented program into the school. And at the end of the day, the school has gone to one of the weakest performers in the district to one of the top performers in the district, and it's teachers like Elizabeth and her cohorts that make it all possible. So thanks for what you're doing for our kids. All right. We are on item 3 of the council agenda. I'll look for a motion on the appointments.
I do have a comment about D, specifically 3 concerns. We're talking about a great corporate citizen and the reappointment of our chairman of Akura, but I do have 3 concerns that specifically one is that we continue to concentrate too much power, and this has plagued Oklahoma City for decades, but I'm concerned about this reappointment for yet another term. You have the same individual who's the head of both Akura and the Alliance of Economic Development, and then within those entities, they are deferring powers. For example, the compensation for Kathy O'Connor has been delegated by the board specifically to this individual. If you've attended enough convention center subcommittee meetings, you can see the political gravity tilt towards this individual of no fault of their own. It's just that the wealth and the power is overwhelming and the political gravity tilts. But knowing this, putting so much power in one person's hands and then with multiple other commissions, it's concentrating too much power. And specifically, the impact, which I think we'll see as we go through the agenda today, is with our TIF program. The problem that we have with Sheriff Wetzel in the county jail is that he wants a 1/2 cent sales tax and wants a small number of people to make those decisions with no oversight. To me, we have the same problem with our TIF program, is that you have a handful of people making these policy decisions, not the council. Specifically, this individual And I think we created this dynamic with Project 180, where we created a TIF program where Devon executives got to choose how we were going to spend that money. We only got to deliver a little over half of what was promised to the people of Oklahoma City. And ultimately, the council didn't really get to decide what the priorities were. These executives got to choose what got done and what didn't get done. And once you give that power to a small number of people, I think it's hard for them to relinquish it.
Ed, forgive me for just a second.
Yeah.
I'm confused. Who are we talking about?
The current chairman of Okura, Larry Nichols.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
The second is that it's impossible to know the conflicts of interest. And here, he himself has given us precedent when he stepped down as head of Okura because of conflicts of interest when he built the first Devon Tower. Now we're building a second. It's clear that there's a paper trail now that we know that Nick Preftakes wasn't the developer. It was actually Devon. If you look at the acquisition papers, tenants signing releases, ground leases, mortgages, the composition of Sheridan Redevelopers LLC, Clay Kempker and other Devon executives, it was Devon throughout the process that was guiding this development, even though we as a council and the people of Oklahoma City were deceived into thinking it was Nick Preftakes and some other front person. When you deceive, deception implies a motive to deceive. You don't want the people of Oklahoma City to know something about either a conflict of interest or something. There's a motive behind the deception. So now we have other developments around the two Devon Towers, including the old Stage Center site, where clearly it's not Rainey Williams. We don't know who it is. There are rumors of others who may have business interests with this current chairman. But we don't know who it is. We know who it's not. It's not who they told us it was, which is Rainey Williams, or now even apparently Clayco. It's others. And so that's a concern. Third is that perhaps more than any other citizen in Oklahoma City, there's enormous amounts of money being directed at this horseshoe, either through campaign contributions or gifts, rumored to be through either Devon or himself, and the six figures towards businesses owned by us. And I just think that it's too much of a conflict of interest, and for that reason, I have to vote against D. I have no problem with the appointment of Mary Millen. Thanks.
Okay. How about a motion then on item 3B, C, and E? All right, we're voting on B, C, and E. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. And then is there a motion on item 3D? Cast your votes. And it passes 7-1. It should be 8-1. Is there a reason my vote is not being tabulated? Huh. All right, there we go. All right, 8-1. Moves us on to item 4, the Journal of Council Proceedings. Item 4A is to receive the journal for September 1st, and item 4B is to approve the journal for August 18th. Any comments or questions on the journal? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 5 is request for uncontested continuances.
Mayor, just a couple this morning, starting on page 20 under item 9H1, item I, 3205 Northwest 61st. We ask that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Then moving to item 9I1, item I, 2834 Southwest 61st Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item K, 220 Southeast 62nd Street. We ask that be stricken. We need to re-notify. And then moving to item 9J1, item L, 2834 Southwest 61st. We ask that be stricken. That is now secured. And finally, item N, 3205 Northwest 61st Place. We ask that be stricken. It's a non-qualifying structure.
All right, any other requests for uncontested continuances? All right, we'll move on to item 6. This is revocable permits. Our first is a request in Ward 6 to hold the AIDS Walk and 5K Run. And we have Verna Meadows has shown up today as a representative of this organization. Good morning, Verna. We'll need your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Verna Meadows, and my address is 4125 Southeast 26th Street in Del City, Oklahoma.
All right, and tell us about the event you're going to hold on September 20th.
On September 20th, we're having our 17th annual AIDS Walk and our 7th annual 5K Red Run. Over the years, we've raised about $660,000 that we give to the nonprofits in Oklahoma City that help people directly affected with HIV and AIDS. The new numbers released from the Oklahoma State Department of Health show that 48% of all new cases are in the Oklahoma County area alone. So we're really, we focus on those options, like other options, RAIN, Latino Community Development Agency, to make sure the people that have HIV or AIDS are getting services that they so desperately need.
All right. Well, thanks for your work. Meg, it's in Ward 6.
It is, and I know that the Myriad Gardens is the headquarters before and after, so I encourage everybody to go spend some time in the gardens this weekend.
Yes, and the run
Should be
actually
beautiful.
runs down on some of the Oklahoma on the trails by the river also, so it's a gorgeous run. Everybody loved it last year, so.
Perfect. Thank you for all that you do. I would move approval.
All right, cast your votes. And that permit passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Verna. Item B is a revocable right-of-way permit request from Integris Jim Thorpe. They're going to be holding the Jim Thorpe Courage Run. And this will also be downtown in Ward 6 and Ward 7. Looks like Greg and Susan are here. We'll need your name and address for the record.
Yes, I'm Greg Horneber, 11763 Blackjack Circle, Guthrie.
Susan Van Winkle, 1225 Southwest 133rd Place, Oklahoma City.
All right, and tell us about the event you want to hold on October 4th.
This is our 11th annual Jim Thorpe Courage Run. It's a 5K and 10K. This is the second year that we're actually working with the Regatta Festival on the October 4th weekend. And we also have a 5K, 10K wheelchair division. We have 20, 30 wheelchair users every year that come out, one of the largest in the state. We actually have a raffle that we've worked with some local vendors and are able to give back at least 5 specialty wheelchairs every year to any of our wheelchair participants. We've had hundreds of runners come out every year, and we do this to help promote the wellness throughout individuals with disabilities and past patients that have come through our programs.
If people want to be involved, what should they do?
They can go to our website, integrisok.com, look up the Jim Thorpe Courage Run,
All right.
and get in touch with us that way.
Good luck. Hope you have good weather for your event.
Thank you.
How about a motion then on item 6B in Ward 6 and 7? Okay, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 6C is an event that would take place in Ward 7 on September 19th. It's called the JDRF One Walk. And Julie, are you here?
Good morning.
Good morning. Julie, we'll need your name and address for the record.
Julie Biebrick, and I live at 6002 Gaelic Glen Drive in Oklahoma City.
Okay, and tell us about the event.
And the JDRF One Walk is the annual walk where we let the children with type 1 and families, they come to the city and we have a walk to raise funds for research. The JDRF is the only institution within the world that does 100% of research for type 1 as well as advocacy. They're looking for a cure, prevention, and also education as it boils down to type 1. And I am a mother of a type 1, so that is why I'm involved. Our walk will be Saturday, and it is at the Bricktown Ballpark. We start around 6:30 setting up. The walk starts around 9 with registration at 8. And then we have a 3-mile walk, and then it usually wraps up around 10:15, and we close down about 11:30. But it is one of our biggest fundraisers in the city, and it all goes to research.
Well, that's great. Thanks for a great cause.
If I could just make a quick comment, I've just had an opportunity to learn a lot more about diabetes than I did. And just for those that are watching us, JDRF is formerly the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation and have shortened their name
Yes,
to that.
that is
So I just
correct, yeah.
wanted to make that very clear.
Oh, yes, sorry
Thank you
about
for
that.
all you're doing.
All right. John, how about a motion? All right, cast your votes on item 6C. It passes unanimously. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Item 6D is a request in Ward 2 from the Red Coyote Running and Fitness Club. They want to hold Runtoberfest. It's a word I hadn't seen before. Is there anyone here representing this event? All right. Good morning. We'll need your name and address for the record.
I'm John Ozen with Ultramax Sports at 2300 Brookside Avenue in Edmond, Oklahoma.
All right, and tell us about the event on October 4th.
Runtoberfest is the 3rd annual fall fitness festival hosted by Red Coyote Running and Fitness. The event begins over on the Chesapeake campus and then finishes over in the Class and Curve Shopping Center. It is a celebration of their grassroots running movement here in the Oklahoma City area. Red Coyote supports and helps sponsor a number of the area running events. It also benefits Girls on the Run, which is a grassroots movement empowering women's running and fitness in the Oklahoma City area. and local events. The event is in the afternoon with a 3 o'clock start time. They've got a post-event block party celebration in the Classic Curve Shopping Center over there. We'll come up and finish in the thing in the shopping center itself with the support of the area merchants.
Terrific. Ed, it's in Ward 2.
Move for approval.
All right, cast your votes on 6D. Passes unanimously. Good luck.
Thanks, sir.
Item 6E is a right-of-way permit to hold the Rosary and St. Francis Oktoberfest on October 4th. Good morning.
Good morning.
We'll need your name and address for the record.
Sarah Martinez Bolby, 301 Southwest 62nd, Oklahoma
Okay.
City, Oklahoma.
Tell us about the event.
This event is our 27th annual event at St. Francis of Assisi and Rosary School. We participate in Oktoberfest, which is a fundraiser for the school. It is the first Sunday of every October. It honors our feast of St. Francis, and we start with a 2-mile fun run, and then we go back to the church property, and we have a mini carnival.
Wonderful. And how can people come by and be involved? Is there information on a website? Or?
There is information on our school website at rosaryschool.com. At the very bottom of the page, there's some Oktoberfest information.
All right, and that's October 4th.
Yes.
In the neighborhood of Kentucky at Northwest 18th and 19th.
Gatewood,
That's in Ward 6. Meg?
That is. That's right in the heart of Gatewood. Rosary is a wonderful school as an anchor to that neighborhood. Thank you so much for what you do. I'd move approval.
Second. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Good luck. All right, item 6F is a request from VI Marketing and Branding. Larry McAllister's here for the Carne Diem. How's my Latin?
Yes, Carne Diem, sees
right.
the meat. It's our annual chili cook-off and street party, so if they get Park Avenue open, we'd like to close it. And it's Friday the event runs from about 11 to 1:30, and we just have a big chili cook-off with a bunch of restaurants involved and VI and a band, and it's just a fun event, and it's all for United Way, so it's one of our major United Way fundraisers.
All right, and is the construction on Park Avenue going to affect the event?
No.
Okay, great.
They're almost done.
Okay.
You really stole my joke. I was going to say, I'm going to allow you to open the
Sorry.
streets, close the street after we finally get it open after all this time. And I'm really disappointed because this is the first year I'm going to miss it, and it's really one of my favorite days of the fall. It's great fun and does raise a lot of money for the United Way. So,
What day of the week is October 23rd?
Friday.
It's a Friday.
So it's a Friday, so it's a Friday after 5 o'clock?
Friday at noon.
No,
now.
no.
Friday at noon.
11 to
Okay.
1:30.
Friday lunchtime.
Yeah.
Encourage people to come down
All
to Park
downtown
Avenue and be a part of it. It really has grown. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, Larry.
I'd move approval.
All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. All right, we'll recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority.
Mayor, item G, we really need to go into executive session on that, so I'd encourage you to approve the first items and then put item G off until executive session later in the docket.
All right, is there a motion then on item A through F? Cast your votes on items A through F of the MFA. It passes unanimously. And then I'll need a motion to move item G into executive session. All right, cast your votes. That item moves into executive session. All right, and so we're going to recess MFA, but not adjourn. You might, for those of you scoring at home. No. We'll convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the PPA? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCPPA, convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. 4 items here. Is there a motion on the EAT? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCEAT and reconvene the council meeting with the consent docket. Probably a good time to recognize a very generous donation that's coming to the city from Shawnee Milling. And is Joe Ford and Mr. Dudley Hyde, are you guys in the room today? Would you guys stand up? I've had them stand up, but I haven't told them why, anybody why, but come on up. They are donating 100 tons of dog food to our animal shelter. And 100 tons is no small amount. I know we just wanted to bring this to the attention of the public. This is a very generous donation, and obviously it goes to a cause that is always strapped for funding. And so if you guys would feel free to say anything or who you've worked with and why you feel called to help us so graciously.
Well, thank you for your time today. Recently, I've had the opportunity to tour the Oklahoma City Animal Shelter with Julie Bank and her staff, and just looked at the wonderful work they're doing and the thousands of animals that they help on a yearly basis. So we thought, just as a company, it'd be a great way to partner with them, and hopefully they can continue to rescue more and more animals in the Oklahoma City area.
Well, we appreciate it very much. It's a business that's been in operation for over 100 years, and this donation is valued at around $75,000. So it's a significant and gracious gift. Thank you very much, and I know our workers over there appreciate it.
Mayor, I would challenge all the council members, if they haven't, to please do a tour of that facility. It's a really eye-opening experience.
It really is. Thank you. They're doing some great work over there. Thank you again. And this is all part of the consent docket today. Let's see. Do we have one other presentation in the consent docket?
We do. We have Doug Dollar here, and Doug's going to go over the budget amendment, which is item AU. Okay.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. The budget amendment makes 10 changes to the budget. I'm just going to hit some of the main points there. As we do each year, we have our purchase order rollover. This is for items that were ordered during last fiscal year, but we didn't receive those goods or services before the end of the fiscal year, so we need the budget authority in the current year to finish out those purchases. That totals $3.1 million and affects 11 funds. We have on here the $8 million in general fund balance that was authorized to be used for street improvements by resolution 2 weeks ago. That includes both the transfer out from the general fund and then $8 million in the capital improvement projects funds, where those funds will be used to work towards street improvements. And the Public Works Department will be bringing back, I believe, a list of the projects that will be funded through that $8 million. We also have $2.5 million in the capital improvement projects funds for various projects that were funded towards the end of last year, but after we had adopted the budget. So this just kind of catches up with where those projects were. We have $202,000 for the Adventure District Business Improvement District that's started through the process. It hasn't been finalized yet, but there are very specific time frames once that's adopted, so we wanted to go ahead and have that in the budget so it's ready to move forward once that's finalized. We have $600,000 in the stormwater drainage utility for May Avenue Dam repairs, as well as additional funding on the Oklahoma River Maintenance Building. We've got other funds that are being amended: the Court Administration and Training Fund, Special Purpose Fund, Transportation and Parking Fund. The total overall is for $15.1 million, and the amended budget totals $1,263 million. And so it's kind of a quick overview of that. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions for Doug on this budget amendment? All right. How about a motion? On the the motion is on the consent docket as a whole. Is there a motion?
I have individual consideration.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Is there a second, though, on the consent docket? Second. All right. We have a motion and a second. Now, is there any individual considerations? Ed, you want to get started with that?
AR.
AR. Okay. Any other considerations? All right. Ed, you want to jump in on AR?
So, well, this kind of dovetails on my previous comments. I'm reading in the attachments that the Art Council of Oklahoma City has been informed that it can no longer hold the annual Festival of the Arts event at the site it has held for at least the past 20 years. I first learned of this TIF allocation on OKC Talk, I think in the last week. I had heard nothing about it before that I'm aware of. I guess my question is, I mean, to me, I'm interpreting this as this is where the Convention Center Hotel is going to go, that decision's been made, that this is...
That would be incorrect. We've
Okay.
made no decision on the Convention Center site. We've made no convention on the Convention Center Hotel because of the anticipated construction of the buildings for the OG&E headquarters and the building next to that, and the potential redevelopment of the 2 blocks south of that, which Urban Renewal is working with Clayco as a designated developer on that. It's no longer feasible for them to have their food court in that area, which disrupts the entire Arts Festival, and it's not a long-term solution for the Arts Festival.
So even if nothing went on the south half of the parcel...
That's correct.
You would
It
have to
be
move.
moved.
So how does that decision, how does that process work? I mean, who initiates that decision? How do we determine that it's 1.5 million? Who's involved in that decision? How does the whole process work?
Well, the determination that they couldn't no longer have it there was made by the Arts Festival as they understand how much of the site will be disrupted with the new construction down there. Because of that, we've looked at other alternate sites as where it could go, and it was determined that the best site was over here between City Hall and the Civic Center.
What
the
about...
cost estimate, what?
Go ahead.
The cost estimate was put together with representatives from the Arts Festival and city staff to determine it's mostly infrastructure. It's water and sewer connections and electrical connections for the food services is the most of the cost of that.
Jim, if I could, the Arts Council Board has a committee that's been working on this for months and months to determine a site to relocate. They looked at sites all over the city and identified Bicentennial Park. For one reason, it was the original site of the Arts Festival. So as they're celebrating, I think, their 50th anniversary, they'll be moving back to the site that they originally occupied. It's the closest site to downtown, but it doesn't have all the infrastructure
So has
that's needed.
has the MAPS Central Park then been eliminated?
Excuse me?
Has the MAPS Park been eliminated?
Absolutely not. That could be the ultimate long-term solution for it down the road, but one, it's not going to be ready for several years. And two, is that even when it is done, the Arts Festival desires some more development around there, more activity before they're ready to take that move. So we don't have a time frame for relocating the Arts Festival down to the new MAPS Park, but it's anticipated that it would probably go down there some point in the future.
So we might be spending $1.5 million to move it, and then additional allocations to move it again in a couple of years.
Well, the infrastructure will be put in with the MAPS Park to accommodate the Arts Festival down there. You know, this could be in the range over here of 5 to 10 years. It's a pretty good size operation. So if you amortize that over the life of the Arts Festival being over there, it's not unreasonable.
Well, and couldn't you argue that the improvements that we're going to make to the Bicentennial Park could be used for other events at the Bicentennial Park?
Part of them could be. Obviously, having additional electricity over there will be helpful. And it could be for the water and sewer, but that's probably more event-specific for the Arts Festival.
Just to clarify something, so the park won't be completed, I believe, until 2019.
I think 18, but we're still trying to shave that time schedule down.
Yeah, so it could be possibly 3 years at least.
But the Arts Council has indicated that until there's additional development down there, having that far away until there's more development around it, they're not anxious to move down there until there's more activity.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments on the consent docket?
I just have one comment about this. I think this is a great idea. It was in front of the TIF review committee. I was surprised it was there. I was surprised that's the source that we're funding it from. It's not, I'm not opposed to it at all. I mean, it's a great idea. It ought to be funded. I was just a little surprised when I was sat in on the TIF review committee, and I was just surprised that that's the funding source for it.
Well, let me talk to you a little bit about the rationale of that, if I could. Obviously, with the civics, where the stage center was, and the blocks down there that are being redeveloped, there's hundreds of millions of dollars of anticipated development, and that development is what's displacing the Arts Council. So the increment off that development was deemed to be appropriate response to put in those public improvements for that area, because it's because of that development, which will be a significant increment into the TIF, that would be a reasonable expense for that.
Was this discussed in the Project 180 improvements to Bicentennial Park? I mean, this just wasn't on the radar yet?
Well, when Project 180 was laid out, there was no plans to redevelop.
To relocate.
Yeah. No, obviously, in 2020 hindsight, I'm sure we could have saved some money had we put these improvements in when we redid Bicentennial Park. But at that time, it wasn't anticipated.
Okay.
Any other comments on the consent docket?
I'm sorry, I stepped out for just a second, and I did want to mention 7V and 7AC1, just briefly.
Okay.
And 7B are final plans and specifications that we're advertising for bid for some drainage improvements down in the Brock Creek and Twin Creek drainage basins. And I know Pete and I kind of go back and forth on these all the time, but I just want to thank the staff for addressing this complicated area around Southwest 15th and South Barnes that's had so much problem with flooding over time, and I'm very happy to see that we're addressing it. Item 7AC1 is a preliminary report on some 2007 bond issue project that provides for some improvements in a couple of our parks, one of which is Red Andrews. And I've been involved in a series of meetings with neighbors surrounding the park, all of whom are very excited and active and looking at significant dollars to match our own bond issue funds to really improve that park, which is surrounded today by this burgeoning cottage district neighborhood. And so I look to see something else come forward in terms of some donations and things for the park that will be very significant.
All right, any other comments or questions on the consent docket?
I guess just one final question on the TIF allocation. We're clearly not addressing blight. So the rationale for using TIF, so we use TIF allocations to relocate the Oklahoman. We're using TIF, so we can use TIF allocations for relocations within the...
Blight is the designation for the creation of the...
Right.
And so we've used it, for example, to give the school district for, when they were pursuing an administration building, we used TIF dollars. That isn't blight to take care of that. So we've used it for millions of dollars have gone to the county to do improvements over at the courthouse, and they've used some at the jail to do some improvements out there. So for governmental agencies can benefit from the use of TIF dollars. Just like the county has, the school district has. We've actually used it for some public improvements down on the canal to improve.
So we've used it for public and private relocations, and we can continue to do so in the future. The Oklahoman was a private corporate entity that received relocation.
Yes.
And so we could continue to do that in the future as we're moving pieces around.
Brent, the Oklahoman, wasn't that out of TIF 8?
Yes, sir.
Okay, TIF 8 had a portion of the allocations that were set aside for corporate relocations. That was a part of the project plan for TIF 8.
Okay.
All right, let's vote the consent docket. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. On to the concurrence docket. Is there a motion here? All right. How about comments or questions on the concurrence docket? Ready to vote? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9 is items requiring a separate vote. We'll start with a series of zoning cases. The first is in Ward 5. The address is 9321 South Santa Fe Avenue. It's currently AA agricultural, and it would become a new R1 residential district. David?
Thank you, Your Honor. Is there anyone here signed up to speak?
No one signed up.
We did receive a couple of letters voicing concerns or protests. I met with the engineer, and after that meeting, I feel very good about this development. It's going to be a really nice addition to the area, and they've even gone as far and made some plans. Some of those homes go back into the early 50s, the old Ranchwood Manor area, large lots, don't have city sewer facilities, so this development will provide an opportunity for many of those homes to finally connect to city sewer, and they're bringing in a detention pond and really doing some things to help minimize any drainage or flooding problems. So it's really going to be a nice addition to the area. So I would recommend approval.
All right. Is there a second on 9A? Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9B has been deferred until September 29th. Item 9C is an ordinance that's in for final hearing today. This is a zoning case in Ward 6. Meg, we have a few people that have signed up to speak. Do you want to kind of frame the issue so people that are watching
Mayor, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do see the applicant here, and I thought maybe it would be a good idea, if you don't mind, if we have a presentation about the project, and then I'll have some comments, and we'll ask some folks to come up and speak.
Thank you. My name is Ben Sellers, 605 Northwest 16th Street.
Ben, would you pull that microphone a little closer to you so we can hear you? Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. This Spud request is 2 parcels. I purchased the land last year with the intent of developing a small mixed-use development consisting of rental apartments and retail along 16th Street. The idea is to build something that would contribute to the walkability and the bikeability of the area and also utilize the existing public transportation infrastructure. There are 2 sites. The larger site's at the southwest corner of 16th and McKinley, shown on your screen, which is about 200 feet east of the commercial properties of the Plaza District. And the second parcel is a block south at the southeast corner of 15th and McKinley. When I purchased the 16th Street site, had a small multifamily building on it, and the 15th Street site had a convenience store building on it. Both have since been raised as they were not structurally sound. When we began the process of figuring out what was best to put on this site, we looked long and hard at what was appropriate as in terms of size, scale, density, and what mix of uses and parking requirements might be needed. As this area is unique, as it's right next to the Plaza District, it's within the Class and 10-pin neighborhood boundaries, and just north is Gatewood. There's a very, very wide mix of uses. The handout you've got helps frame the context of the development. The first one is the city's planning department's S&I, Strong Neighborhood Initiatives map. The green circle is the intersection of 16th and McKinley. And so one of my sites is in that blue hash mark area labeled as businesses and facade improvements for the future. And 1 block south, my smaller site is in the area labeled as mixed use. This is just an idea of the city's planning department's long-term plans for this area. The second page helps put into context the mix of uses of the overall area. My sites are in the middle there in neon green, and the colored parcels are other multifamily sites. There's been a lot of discussion about the relevance and density of my project. Just east, the red rectangle is a 10-unit structure. It's 58 units per acre. Up at the top, the blue and orange parcels are 24 units, totaling 75 units per acre in density. To the west or left, there are 3 multifamily projects, 16, 16, and 12 units respectively, averaging 30 units per acre in density. And then down at the bottom in pink, there's a structure that was built in the 30s that we actually took quite a bit of our design inspiration from, which was built with retail on the first floor and apartments above it. The rest of the area is a mix of primarily single-family, duplex, and threeplex structures in this overall neighborhood. This is really just to frame the context and the appropriateness of our project. Once we had analyzed all this, and I asked my architecture and design team to move forward with something that would complement the neighborhood and really pay respect to the history and the context, but be designed, be a modern structure of our time. After many conversations with neighbors and stakeholders in the area, and what was approved at Planning Commission was a project with 20 apartments and 3,000 square foot of retail on 16th Street and 8 apartments on 15th. After Planning Commission, we did go back and we looked at the 16th Street site to gain some additional parking. And we reduced that by 3 units, and we gained 4 parking spaces. So in summary there, we have 17 rental apartments with 27 parking spaces on site, and an additional 8 public parking spaces in the right-of-way off of McKinley. And that's a summary of the project, and I'm happy to answer any questions or hear from anybody else.
Any questions for Ben?
One quick question. There's a transit line along?
Yes, 16th Street is a transit line, and there's actually a current bus stop one lot west of my project, and I'm actually proposing moving the bus stop in front of the 16th Street project and building a new parking covered bus stop structure there.
Ben, would you talk a little bit about the plans for the commercial and the bike plans?
Sure. So the commercial space is limited to 3,000 square foot of retail facing 16th Street, and we put some restrictions in there, no convenience store, no vapor shops, no liquor stores, and things like that. And then we've also got an area designated on our site to have covered and enclosed bike storage for the residents with a bike repair facility for our residents. And also bike racks and bike storage for the public in front of the retail space. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I know that we have some other people that have signed up to speak.
Two
so maybe
people have
we
signed
could
up to speak on this item.
do
Thanks,
that.
Ben. Jessica Thompson?
I didn't see Jessica come in.
All right. Jan Knight? Good morning. We will need your name and address for the record.
Good morning. My name is Jana Knight, and I live at 1519 Northwest 16th, which is directly across from 1600 Northwest 16th. I have lived here for 17 years. I have served 7 years on the Gatewood Historic District Board, and 2 were as president. This Spud would allow the developer to make substantial changes to a residential and business area, and this needs to be well thought out. We should take time to consider the ramifications of setting a precedent for future development that might not benefit the historic areas. Just like a charm or personality to an area, once something is built that is out of character for the area, you start destroying what is in the place, what has made the place it is, and why people want to come here. Just like Stockyards City, which recaptures the architectural flavor of the early 20th century with gas lights and wooden storefronts, people come to Stockyard City because of the Western theme. With a development of very modern style, high density, 23, now 17, units with 3,000 square feet of commercial, completely surrounded by neighborhood homes, add to the attraction, be considered Stockyard City Extension. Or what about building this same development in Engineer neighborhood, a block outside of the Paseo Arts District? Would this development add to the Spanish village of Fleur and its stucco buildings and clay tile roofs and home to Oklahoma City artist community? Or maybe we should build this a block or 2 off Capitol Hill Business District and press a very well-preserved Main Street business along Southwest 25th, which has seen a revival in the past few years. Or maybe we should build this in Quail Creek neighborhood, which would put it a block off May Avenue and near North Park. The resident might love having North Park across the street, a bank and a grocery store within walking distance, but inside the neighborhood, the homes need to be somewhat sacred in the neighborhood, and the same with ours. This is what we are fighting to protect. Plan OKC states that we need to protect the unique character of National Register listed properties or districts and local historic districts and ensure that development and redevelopment is compatible with historic resources and character. This development will impact Gatewood Historic District and Class and Tenpin, which is not a historic district, but is a historic area and deserves protection as well. There are homes along Northwest 16th that were built before statehood, and once these historic resources are gone, they are gone forever. In conclusion, I hope you follow the guidelines outlined in Plan OKC to protect our historic districts and areas by voting no for this development. Give us time to work with the Planning Department, Development Services, the Alliance for Economic Development, and Neighborhood Alliance to develop a strategy for preservation, revitalization of the city's historic, cultural, and architectural resources. In fact, I've already started a dialogue with Planning Commissioner Bright and Neighborhood Alliance on this very subject. Thank you.
I'm looking at a map here. Where is your property? You said it was on 16th.
My property is northeast of 16th and McKinley there. There's an empty lot right on the corner.
Right.
And then I'm the next house over.
Okay.
I own the empty lot there too.
Okay. How long have you lived there?
17 years.
And you own the vacant lot as well there on the corner?
Yeah.
Okay.
My lot's very small, so I like to have a green space. And I have trees there, and I planted, red bud, things like that, so just to make it a nice area.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. Okay. Thanks for coming down.
You're welcome.
All right. Is there anyone else here hoping to speak on item 9C today? All right, Meg?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I really think I need to begin by saying I think this project got off a little bit on the wrong foot. Instead of approaching the neighborhoods who have for so long been supportive of the urban growth and development they've been supportive of the Plaza District. They preserve the Plaza District before it had the investment of the Lyric Theater. The neighborhoods just haven't felt consulted in the beginning of this process. And my summary would be, if there's a lesson to be learned from this for any developer that's going into a residential neighborhood with change, the neighborhoods need to be consulted, and we've talked a lot about that. I've met with the neighborhoods several times, and so I think that is a strong lesson to be learned from that. All that being said, I've worked a lot with staff, worked a lot with the applicant, and as I said, talked to the neighborhoods. This applicant has made significant concessions to the original proposal. The size of the project was reduced, as we said, from 13 to 17 units. The original Spud contemplated commercial designation for the entire thing, and it's now been restricted to only 3,000 feet on the project. They've added parking spaces. They've added green spaces. They've increased some porous environment to deal with drainage issues that I think were concerns of the neighborhood. And so in preparing, I went back to my original notes from the Gatewood, my conversation with the Gatewood neighborhood. And the three comments they made were they hoped that they would tighten the language in the Spud, which has been done, that they would reduce density, they were concerned about density, and increase parking, that was done, and that they would address green space and drainage issues. And that was done as well. So this project, in speaking with Director of our Planning Department and some of the others, it conforms with Plan OKC. It meets the intent that I think the council policy is set and staff is set for innovative urban infill projects, both mixed use. And I think if we look at the handouts on page 2, there's been some concern about the architectural design, but this project that was built in the 30s on the lower right-hand corner, there is a literal reference taken from that the architect did. We're not here, this is not a design review process, this is a land use discussion, but I do think there was some respect given to the project. It provides an alternative housing choice for people that live in these neighborhoods. Not everybody that moves into a historic district wants to take on an older home or revamp a house, and having townhouse living provides a different type of alternative. And I'd like to thank my colleagues on the council, particularly Larry, took the opportunity to drive it and get an idea of the context, and I very much appreciate that. I think given all the changes that were made to the project and the conformity with the city's standards, I would move approval for this project.
All right, there's a motion to say. Anybody else want to comment on this?
Just maybe, I mean, to me, some of the changes were for the worse and unfortunate. I mean, increasing parking, has really decreased. We've got great changes on Western, but that always bowing to parking. I mean, there's a 2-to-1 parking ratio here, which is, I think is too high if you're along a transit line. I think there's a difference between development along a transit line and not being on a transit line. And I think we have to get used to, if we want our developing transit lines is not about the mode of transportation, it's about having things along your transit line. So having allowances for increased density, mixed use, I think it's disappointing that there's less commercial. I think it's disappointing that the density was decreased. And it's definitely disappointing that the parking was increased. I mean, those are the kind of things that you don't want to do right on the transit line. I think it's great that you're willing to invest in making a cool bus shelter and bring attention to the transit line. I believe autonomous cars are coming. I think you design for 2025, not 2015, and there's going to be less cars on the road in the future. And let's get people on the transit lines, and then you won't have to obsess as much about parking.
And I would agree, but parking is clearly an issue in this neighborhood, and it's causing a lot of strife on side streets, and I appreciate the applicant's willingness to address the neighborhood's concerns. And it was more a concern for the commercial than it was for the residential, because most of those are going to be single family units with one car use. But to be able to provide access, I mean, the Plaza District isn't only accessed by people that live in the Plaza District. Lots of us drive there, and we're causing problems for the neighbors. So at the moment, I think it's the win-win solution that we could ask for. But thank you for your comments.
All right, ready to vote? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9D is a zoning case in Ward 5. This would close a portion of South Douglas Road. David, you okay with this?
Yes, Your Honor, there were no protests, and we've approved the Spud itself, so I would recommend approval.
All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Similar issue on 9D2. This is a closing of 20th Street between North Eagle Lane and Davis Avenue. James, you okay with this?
Yeah, I am. Has anybody signed up?
No.
No? I see somebody who lives close to this. Is that why you're here? Oh, okay. But yeah, I think this is a long time coming. I mean, this road has been pretty worthless for years, so I think that this will be a much better use of the road by letting PC West use it and connect their campus. So with that, I move for approval.
All right, we're voting on item 9D2. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. And 9D3 is a closing of fire lane easement in Ward 7. John, you okay with this one?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak? All right, thank you. I move for approval.
All right, we're voting on item 9D3. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9D4 would close several easements in Ward 5. David?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Thank you. It's great to see new development, new retail development along I-240, and I think this is going to be very helpful to the efforts to ignite a resurgence of the retail area along I-240. So I'd recommend approval.
All right, we're voting on 9D4. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. And item 9D5 would close several easements in Ward 4.
Is there anyone signed up in opposition?
No.
I move approval.
All right, we're voting on 9D5. Cast your votes, and it passes unanimously. Item 9E would set the council schedule for 2016. All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9F is a public hearing. This item was introduced 2 weeks ago, but it would bring our fishing ordinances into compliance with state law. Is there anyone here hoping to speak in this public hearing on item 9F? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9G comes to us from the police department, but can be introduced today by our legal staff.
And there they are.
Okay.
We make it to 9G, Mayor? This ordinance amendment has to be done because of a U.S. Supreme Court case that just came down. It actually probably has taken more time to talk about it and draft it than we'll actually ever use it. But we have to have this provision based upon the new case that came down. What this does is impacts the guest registry at hotels and motels. So we have a requirement already that says that hotels and motels and tourist camps must keep a guest registry with certain information in it. And they must open up that registry for police inspection. Well, the case that went to the Supreme Court, there was a little bit of, from our understanding, a little bit of maybe harassment that was going on, wanting to see the registry daily or several times a day. And so several hotel operators took that issue up on appeal. And what the court said is that you must provide an administrative method by which the subject of the search, or the motel or hotel operator, has the ability to go to a neutral decision maker and say, listen, these requests are unreasonable. So we had to create a process for that. And what we've done is mimicked what happens in Chapter 26 already, where the licensed supervisor can look into issues regarding licenses and determine if a suspension or a revocation has to occur, and then that decision can be appealed to the License Appeal Board. So we kind of just piggybacked onto that process and cleaned a few things up. The License Appeal Board, which consists of Craig Freeman, Bob Tiener, and Eric Winger, asked us for this matter to give a little bit of clarification in the ordinance on kind of what can be done with the license suspensions and revocations. So we said that the license supervisor can give a warning if merited on the first offense, or the first offense can be a 10-day suspension, second offense, 30-day suspension, third and subsequent could be a 90-day suspension or a revocation of the license. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we've done with that ordinance.
Okay.
Cindy, you said hotels, motels, and tourist
camps.
Is that like an RV park or a?
Yes. I mean, our definition doesn't go any deeper than that, but yes, that's the way we would look at it.
All right, this item, if approved by council today, would call for a public hearing on September 29th, and then we would be scheduled for a final vote on October 13th. Item just being introduced today. Is there a motion to allow this to be introduced? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. All right, item 9H is a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9H? All right, how about a motion? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9I is a public hearing regarding unsecured structures. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9I? All right, how about a motion here? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9J is a public hearing regarding abandoned buildings. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9J? All right, how about a motion? Cast your votes. 9J passes unanimously. 9K is a public hearing regarding removal of properties from the abandoned buildings list. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under either of these properties? All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes on 9K. It passes unanimously. Item 9L is a resolution that has to do with TIF 10, and Kathy O'Connor is here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. We want to talk a little bit about the resolution that's on your agenda this morning, but also wanted to take this opportunity to go through some information that we've been developing and sharing with the Oklahoma City Public Schools and our other taxing jurisdictions related to TIF. We've been having several meetings with the school district over the past several months, probably over the past 6 or 7 months, to go through some of their questions about TIF. And from that, we developed some information that we thought would be really helpful to share with you as we move forward with the Court Ashore TIF district. So first of all, just to give you some background on the item that's before you today, it's a resolution to rescind the resolution that was adopted in January to establish 2 TIF review committees. One was for Court Ashore and one was for the South Business District TIF districts. We have, through our discussions and work and processing over the past several months, decided that really the best approach would be to create one project plan that's called the Court Ashore Project Plan, and we'll go into that a little bit more in more detail in a minute, but we really only need one TIF review committee. We're not going to need the 2 TIF review committees. So that really is what the resolution does today. There's also some changes in the state law that we will incorporate into the new TIF review committee and the new TIF project plan as we move forward. So first of all, and just to remind you about the process a little bit, the adoption of the resolution to establish the TIF review committee is really the first step in the process. Through that, the City Council says to staff, go and prepare what's called the project plan. And the project plan is a term that's used in the state statutes to describe the planning document that outlines how the TIF will be used, the area that will be covered, its objectives and goals. It includes the budget for the TIF. So all of that is included in what's called the project plan. So it's a legal term, and people get sometimes confused about, well, what is this project plan thing? Well, it's basically the plan and the budget for that specific TIF district. So just to kind of go back through why we use TIF and why it's important to us is that tax increment financing is a tool that municipalities can use in areas where investment or economic is difficult, but made possible with tax increment financing. It's used to generate new employment opportunities through the creation of jobs, economic activity, and investment. It's used to attract investment to areas of the city that are distressed. And it is used to generate new residential and commercial investment that enhances the quality of life, education, and economic stability in an area. And remember, TIF is used in specific geographic areas, and at the current time, we have 9 TIF districts, and we use both ad valorem increment, property tax increment, and sales tax increment in several of our districts. So just as, a reminder of how tax increment works, when the City Council adopts the resolution establishing the TIF, adopts the ordinance establishing the TIF district, the base assessed value is determined, and that's determined by Oklahoma County. Those revenues that are generated by that base assessed value of property in the TIF district continue to go to all the taxing jurisdictions. Any incremental growth in assessed value and the taxes that are generated from that incremental growth in assessed value is the increment. And that is what can be captured by the increment district to be used for project costs. And project costs are defined in the project plan. At the expiration of the TIF district, the base levy plus the incremental increase then goes back to the normal, to the taxing jurisdictions. This is a map of where our current TIF districts are, just to give you some idea of the size of them and how many we have. We do have 9 TIF districts. The largest of those is the downtown MAPS TIF district, and then the second largest is the Northeast Renaissance. I think people think that they're bigger than they really are, but in the scale of Oklahoma City, they're really about less than 1% of Oklahoma County, about 1% of the city of Oklahoma City, and 3.8% of the land area of I-89. The budget allocations for our 9 TIF districts total $427.3 million. That is a budget allocation. It does not represent the amount of increment necessarily generated by those districts, and it is a 25-year budget. It is not an annual $427 million. It's a 25-year program. So what I thought we'd do is walk through each of the TIF districts, and we're going to do this pretty quickly because there's a lot of material here. But just to kind of give you a recap on each of these different TIF districts. The Medical Research Park TIF is the first TIF district that was created in Oklahoma City. It was created in 1993. Its main purpose was job creation in the health center area. To date, it's generated about $2.8 million annually in taxes. About $1.1 million of that is paid by the University of Oklahoma as a payment in lieu of taxes for the Presbyterian Research Park. Once they acquired that, they were required to make that tax payment. Go to the next one. TIF 2, it was created in 2000. The purpose of it was to catalyze investment in the downtown area, particularly housing. It had a primary focus on residential development. The project plan budget totals $121 million. The increment at this time, the net assessed value from the net assessed value is $89 million. The total taxes generated are $7.2 million each year. And in addition to the 7.2, we also generate $2.93 million that is distributed to the other taxing jurisdictions from TIF 2. We're going to go into this in a little bit more detail in a minute, but in TIF 2, we share the incremental increase in property tax revenues with the other taxing jurisdictions. So they receive a half of the indirect increment, and we can show you how that has amounted to quite a bit of revenue for them through the years. The Skirvin TIF 3 is the sales tax increment district that was established for the Skirvin Hotel. To date, we've generated about $2.7 million in city sales tax revenues, which have been matched by the state of Oklahoma, and were used to help fund the investment in redeveloping the Skirvin. The Oklahoma Riverfront TIF is TIF 4 and 5. This TIF district was established to attract Dell computers to Oklahoma City. The funding was primarily used, in fact entirely used, for site improvements. If you recall, the project is on a former landfill site. It had serious environmental problems, infrastructure problems, and we used the money from the TIF district to make the site improvements necessary for Dell to build their buildings there. As of 2015, the annual taxes generated from this TIF district were $885,000 a year. Las Rosas is a small residential TIF district that we established in 2005 at Southeast 25th and High near Wheeler Elementary School. This project, we suffered from bad timing to some degree, and it has not generated the level of taxes that we thought it would. It is doing better now. Habitat for Humanity took over the project several years ago. They've built about 62 units of housing, and it is beginning to generate some increment. For several years, it did not generate any increment. But I want to say that, you know, it was the first housing that was developed in that part of Oklahoma City in probably 50 years. And we still think that it was an important project, and it continues to really help Wheeler Elementary.
And it was not successful, there's no doubt about that, but it did bring a catalyst to make that happen, and you know, everything isn't a home run, but that was a good attempt to try to bring back an area that really needed some help.
Yeah.
Houses are still being built there.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes, they are. Right now,
I
I think there's
50
about
years
62, well, the slide says 62 units have been built, and there's still the ability to build about another 130 more
Right.
if the project plan is completed.
I think 50 years is probably on the short side of how long it had been since real development had occurred in that area.
It might be. I mean, the good thing is we use the TIF funding in this project to build the infrastructure, to build the streets and the water lines and sewer lines that were necessary for the housing development. So,
If nothing else, it at least stabilized the continued deterioration of the area. And I think it's got long-term potential, plus as a learning opportunity, because I think there's need for this type of development in other parts of the city, and I think it'll be very beneficial.
Great. Okay, TIF 7 is the Bioscience TIF district. It's just south and a little bit east of TIF 1. This TIF district was created in 2006. As of this date, it has no market value growth and generates no taxes. I anticipate that will change in the near future with the completion of the Embassy Suites Hotel and some other developments in the area that will have to pay property taxes. TIF number 8 is the Devon World Headquarters TIF. This TIF was established when Devon requested that a TIF district be created in order to support the development of their world headquarters here in Oklahoma City. As a reminder, the project plan is focused almost entirely on public improvements. The Project 180 expenditures were substantially funded by this TIF district, and that Devon received none of the TIF proceeds for their own project. There is money in this project plan budgeted for the other taxing jurisdictions and for other economic development to help us attract other headquarters companies to downtown Oklahoma City. And to date, the taxes generated are $11.3 million. Devon has a minimum tax payment requirement, so they are required to pay $11.3 million in taxes each year for this project. And then finally, the last TIF district, the most recent one that we created is TIF 9, for the Northeast Renaissance TIF district. If you recall, this TIF district is concentrated on the commercial corridors in Northeast Oklahoma City, primarily Northeast 23rd Street, Martin Luther King, Kelly, and then along I-35. The project plan budget is $45 million, and to date, since it's brand new, we don't really have any increment to talk about yet, so hopefully next year. So just to kind of recap the success of some of our existing TIF districts, for TIF 1, we've created about 2,000 jobs in the Medical Research Park between 2002 and 2011, which represents an 18.7% growth rate. In downtown, we've accomplished about 2,100 units of housing. Actually, that represents 40% of the new housing in I-89 happened in the downtown TIF district. There's about 1,500 additional units of housing that are either underway or planned, and we've generated about $800 million in new market value in the past 15 years. The Skirvin sales tax assisted with the renovation of the Skirvin Hotel. The Dell TIF district helped the city generate about 2,100 new jobs, $720 million in payroll. Las Rosas is planned for 220 housing units. As we mentioned, about 60 of those have been built. And then TIF 8, about $176 million in infrastructure improvements and investment in downtown Oklahoma City in streets, sidewalks, parks, and plazas. So a pretty phenomenal success rate for our TIF districts. One of the things that we've been talking with the other taxing jurisdictions about quite a bit is the revenue sharing aspect of TIF 2 and helping them understand that they receive, in the downtown TIF district, we have direct projects and we have indirect projects. The direct projects are those projects where we make an investment of TIF funding to support the investment of the project. Any other growth in assessed value in downtown is called indirect. So if a building sells and it generates additional tax revenues, those are indirect ad valorem revenues. The indirect revenues are divided. 50% goes to the other taxing jurisdictions and 50% goes to the TIF district. So what we wanted to do was take a look at what would have happened in downtown Oklahoma City if we had not created a TIF district. And really the best way to predict what would have happened if we hadn't was to look at what had happened in the past. So we took a look at the past annual growth rate in the downtown TIF district area. And that area had been growing at 1.4% a year over the previous 20 years. So if you extend that out over into the future to 2034, the life of the TIF district and beyond, that's the yellow, kind of the lighter orange line on the graph above. The next line that we've called an aggressive growth rate is the same rate of growth that the rest of Oklahoma City has seen over the past 20 years. So 3.34% is the growth in assessed value that all of the rest of Oklahoma City has seen. It's not what's been happening in I-89, for example, or some smaller geographical area. That growth rate is about 3.4%. So that's the red line that's shown on the graph. The blue line shows the actual increment generated from TIF 2, and we've just compounded it after 2015. Go to the next slide. On this next slide, you see the red line is the base assessed value that was determined for the downtown TIF district. That red line represents the tax revenue that would have gone to I-89. This is really just I-89 only. So it's the base revenues that go to I-89 if no revenue sharing proposal had been made or no revenue sharing had been created. The green line represents their base revenues plus their share of those indirect revenues. So that's the green line, and that is what goes to I-89. This next graph shows you the gain that I-89 has achieved above what would have happened if we had not created a TIF district. And you can take a conservative view of the world, or you can take a more aggressive view of the world, the red line or the yellow line. Either way, they've achieved greater revenues through the creation of the TIF district than they would have if we had not created the TIF district and created the revenue sharing component of it. So that's an example of how we would address revenue sharing, and we believe that this is an important component as we look to TIF districts in the future. So that goes to this next slide about the framework for future TIF districts. Again, TIF is a tool to be used for investment, development, and economic growth, where economic growth is possible but difficult, but it's difficult but possible with TIF assistance. Our past TIFs, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 9 are examples where all the increment that's been generated has been used to go to project costs. And in each of those cases, it really has been a situation where there really wasn't the opportunity to develop spin-off investment or other kinds of investment that could be shared with the other taxing jurisdictions. TIF 2 was the exception to that, and we've had a very successful program in sharing those revenues. So in the future, what we would like to look at is areas where the public project costs, that's the investment from the project plan that are made to support development and future private investment or infrastructure and other public benefits, can be used to support substantial additional or indirect development so that the revenues from that indirect development can be shared with the other taxing jurisdictions. It's a complicated concept to just stand up here and try to explain, but we think that it really is important in some of these TIF districts where we do believe that if we invest in infrastructure and if we invest in these other public and private development, that it will create spin-off investments, that those revenues should be shared with the other taxing jurisdictions. An important concept is that the revenue sharing is possible, but there's this initial period where we have to generate the investment before there's anything to share. So 5 years or so, and then we can begin sharing the revenue. And it may be appropriate to find opportunities to share additional revenue through budgeting for projects like we do in TIF 2 and we do in TIF 8. So in TIF 2, for example, we have very specific budget line items that are for the public schools, public parking, public development costs, and those are available to the other taxing jurisdictions. Some of the things that are going to be coming to you in the near future, this is just kind of a recap of some items that went to the Downtown TIF Review Committee last week that I wanted to make sure that you knew about. We have proposed an amendment to the Downtown Maps TIF district budget. And the reason that we've done that is that we have received requests from Oklahoma County and from I-89 to fund certain projects for those two taxing jurisdictions, and we did not have sufficient budget authority remaining in order to fund those. TIF 2 has been very successful, and we, based on our cash flow projections and looking at our revenue projections into the future, there's adequate revenue to support this amendment. So what we are proposing is to increase the budget for residential development by $5 million, hotel commercial by 15, public schools by 9, and other taxing jurisdictions by 3. We would like to clarify the project plan so that the public schools would be for only I-89. We would add a footnote in the budget so that that money could only be used for I-89. The category other public development would be limited to the city and city projects. And then the other taxing jurisdictions category is a new category, and that would be for all of the other taxing jurisdictions except for I-89. So it'd be Metro Tech, Oklahoma County, the library, City County Health would all be able to fund projects from those. The other proposed amendments include an amendment to allow the other taxing jurisdictions to spend their TIF allocations for these specific projects outside of the TIF project area. So they could spend them anywhere within their jurisdiction. We'd like to expand the current project area in TIF 2 goes to Southwest 27th. We would like to expand that to the south side of Southwest 29th Street because we believe that in the future there will be adequate increment available to fund some projects that are outside the increment area but within the project area. And then finally, we would recommend an amendment to carve a portion of TIF 2 out so that it becomes a part of the Court Shore TIF district. This is just a recap of kind of where we are in the current budget for TIF 2. Our current allocations total about $91 million. With these new allocations for public schools, other public development, it revises the amount available at the end to the revised allocations column. And then this is just a look at the revised budget, the revised allocations that are a part of the amended budget, and then what the revised balance would be available for projects for the remaining 10 years of the TIF district. So the next thing that we talked about with the TIF Review Committee last week and that we've been talking with the school district about is the Court Shore Reinvestment Area TIF district. And this is the TIF district that relates to the TIF Review Committee resolution that's on your agenda today. What we are proposing is to create one new project plan called the Court Shore Reinvestment Area Project Plan, and it would include 6 new TIF districts. TIF districts can be triggered up to 10 years after the initial start date of the adoption of the project plan. So the council would adopt the project plan, and then the 6 TIF districts could be triggered up to over a 10-year period. Each TIF district individually would only have a 25-year life expectancy. So nothing lasts longer than 25 years, but because of the timing of development and how some things just happen, it allows us to wait until we know we have redevelopment that's about to happen to trigger that new start date. Has some advantages. It allows growth in the base assessed value to occur over that time period so that the county and other taxing jurisdictions can share in that. And it does allow us to time the creation of the TIF district more closely to when development is going to happen. Currently, the area that's identified for the Court Shore TIF district only generates $750,000 in ad valorem taxes. About $142,000 of that is in TIF 2 right now. And what we are proposing is revenue sharing options similar to what we have in the downtown TIF district. Here are some maps that show the area that we're talking about. This represents the entire boundary of the Court Shore Reinvestment Area. You can see it goes to the river. It basically includes what we traditionally considered the Court Shore area. It's in the Court Shore Urban Renewal Plan, and it also includes the area around the Myriad Gardens and west of the Chesapeake Arena. This is another map to maybe more clearly show the area that is currently within TIF 2 that we would like to carve out from TIF 2 and include in TIF 10. And one thing I would remind you is that when we do that, it does reset the base. So the taxes that are currently being paid out of this carved out area would return to the taxing jurisdictions, and we would reset the base for TIF 2. Then this is a diagram that shows how we have envisioned the 6 districts to work, or to the boundaries of them. The first one is the South CBD Central Park TIF district. We call it TIF District A. It's the largest of the districts. It does include the site for either of the sites for the new convention center, and includes the area south of the Chesapeake Arena and to the west of the Myriad Gardens. I would point out that it does not include the block where the 499 Sheridan development is occurring. That would remain in TIF 2. So then you can see A, B, C, D, there's 6 different districts. We anticipate that districts B, E, and F will be very project-related. They will be for a specific development plan that comes forward, and it will trigger those when we get more information and think that development's about to happen. But obviously, we wouldn't want to trigger a new TIF district on the Cox Convention Center site, for example, until we're prepared to make the decision to demolish it or whatever happens there. So this is how we envision these things moving forward, and is what we presented to the TIF Review Committee last week and what we've discussed with the school district as well. And finally, this is kind of a map to show you this TIF district in relationship with the other ones. A couple of things that we are considering for the project plan for the Coeur d'Alene TIF is that it would be very much based upon encouraging investment and incentives at a higher level than what would ordinarily be required under like the downtown design guidelines. So we would demand a higher level of density and quality in order to receive a TIF incentive. And obviously, we'd still have the kind of financial analysis that we do on all of our projects. We also see it as, it's all of our TIF funding is very much performance-based. We don't provide the funding to the projects until after they're completed. We do that now. We would do that in the future. We also anticipate that we would try to not take out any debt on this new TIF district, so that it would be a pay-as-you-go. Basically, a developer would receive a incentive payment based upon what they've paid in taxes, but it wouldn't be until after they've paid their taxes. So it would just be kind of a pay-as-you-go kind of arrangement with hopefully very, very limited debt associated with it. And I think that pretty much wraps up the presentation. I would like to say that we are continuing our discussions with the school district. We're trying to set another meeting with them for later this month or the 1st of October to continue our discussions with them. I think they've gone very well. It's been a great educational process for all of us that have been there, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions. I know it was a lot of information, and I'll be glad to go over it again with you if you'd like me to.
All right, questions for Kathy from council? Yeah, Pete?
First of all, I want to say how much I believe these amendments are needed. They're especially, there's a couple of them, especially with the permitting the other taxing jurisdictions to use the money wherever they need it within their jurisdiction, I think is a major step forward. I think also the designation of the remaining funds in the 2 TIF districts that generate funds and making an allocation of that so it's not such a contest to who gets the money. I think both of those are very, very positive steps. Thirdly, I've attended most all of the meetings between I-89 and the TIF people, and those have gone extremely well. I'm very positive about that. It has permitted me, someone who has been a bit of a detractor with regard to TIFs, a much better insight into the process, and I'm much more comfortable with it than I would have been, I think, before. But I do have a couple of things that are still out there. One is the length of the TIF in relation to the original project size. I've raised this before. The TIF is set up to generate 100 million, and some of them have exceeded the amount of money that they're generated. I would like to see a trigger put in the TIF so that once they are 150% of their original value or 120% or some number, they're over. Because I am really worried, and I know I've talked to Brett, I've talked to you, I talked to Ms. Batchelor a number of times, and I know there's a lot of energy being put into making sure they're done right and that we ask the right questions. I don't have any problem about any of that. But I think until we stop one of them, we'll never know, we'll never get an answer to the what if it wasn't there question. The whole idea is, but for the TIF, it wouldn't happen. But as long as the TIF continues to exist, you don't have a real good answer for that question. And it seems to me we could set a limit on the front side and say, when we exceeded what we set out to do by a certain percentage, that would terminate the TIF. Now, I've said that a couple, 3, 4, 5 times. But what I don't have is a response as to what the impact of that would be. And I'm not saying we stop because inflation, oil prices, all kinds of things will cause that number to fluctuate and cause the need to go higher. I'm saying that we shouldn't hold it to the exact number. But at 100 and some percentage, I would like to see a review. I'd like to see it a stop, an up-down vote somewhere at the council, at the TIF review committee, somewhere. But before I just advocate that generally, I'd like to know what your response is. Not today. It's too hairy a question to answer today. But I would like over the next month or so, and before we vote on some of these other changes, I'd like to know what you believe. And I value what you believe. I'm telling you, my whole attitude about it is lightened tremendously over the last 3 or 4 months. But I still think that question is out there, and that is how do you determine the what for, the what if, the wouldn't happen otherwise.
I think the challenge is that when you've had a TIF district in existence for 15 or 20 years, and then it expires because you've met the maximum allowed in the project plan, you've already created all of the energy, all of the economic activity in the market. You kind of created this new market, so hopefully things do happen on their own. I mean, that's absolutely what we desire. I think what we have done is when we get close to the budget, really TIF 2, we've done it with TIF 8 too, but we revised that budget down. On TIF 2, we have looked at the budget periodically and increased it because we felt that there was still so much more to be gained by encouraging the private investment downtown and helping the market grow and creating more indirect growth because of that's what's happened. And again, those budget amendments are very public processes. They go to you, they go to the Planning Commission, they come back to you for 2 hearings. I mean, we treat them as if they're major amendments. So, because they are. But we can talk some more about what you're thinking.
I'd like to see them tied to a termination, because I don't think we're ever going to have a test. Now we're saying we're going to do them for 35 years out in the future with this, have 10 to start plus 25. We're going out 35 years in the future. It seems to me there ought to be some way to take the pulse of that thing and say, what if we quit doing this? Would private development come otherwise? I mean, and I know I've talked to Brett at length about increasing the requirements. You've talked about increasing density, making sure they're a better project than they would be otherwise. But I still think that hammer of it's over is the only way to test the but for.
I guess the question I'd have is, how do you do the termination? Is it done by statute? What allows us to terminate prematurely?
We could build it into it.
I think the city council can do it. I think the city council can, it's an ordinance, so I'm not the lawyer here, but I think you adopt an ordinance to.
Well, and if you can't, that's a good answer. I mean, it's over at that point.
It's a great philosophical question.
Right.
When do you take your foot off?
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get you that, we'll look at it and discuss it further and tell you a little bit about what's happened in the past and what we believe will happen. Again, none of us has a crystal ball. We don't know for sure what would happen, but we can.
Understand. But it seems to me it in and of itself is controversial enough. There are enough people that either have serious misconceptions or just plain distrust whatever. And there's enough people that have that feeling that I think we ought to be more active in just making a decision. I'd like the idea of, at some point, being able to say yes or no. I mean, 35 years is a long time to put off that decision.
I definitely like Pete's idea. My question is, can you email this to me, this presentation?
Absolutely.
Because it's got a lot of information in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be online, too. But we
I
can't get a copy.
can't quite consume all at once. But what exactly are we voting for on item M then? Because it seems like this is pretty detailed on what the TIF is going to be. So what exactly?
You're not voting on any of that. All you're voting on is establishing a TIF review committee.
Okay.
And then staff will prepare a detailed project plan that will
Come up with the budget and all of those.
with the budget and everything, and that will go to the TIF review committee, and then it will come back through to you for approval. And I think we have 2 or 3 hearings that we have to go through.
Okay. So this does not create the TIF
It's
district?
very preliminary. These
creates-
are really just ideas at this point.
Okay.
And really the reason I wanted to talk to you about them today is because we've been talking to the school district about them. And at some point, I felt like I was getting a little out in front of you all. So we needed to have a discussion about it.
Okay, thanks.
Kathy, can I just clarify one thing, that 25 years, no TIF would last for longer than 25 years.
That's correct.
We just have the opportunity to trigger within that 25 years another one that would have its own 25-year life.
Yes.
And the max available time to do that would be 1 to 10 years.
That's correct.
So,
Yes.
and each time that happens, the base resets.
For that specific
specific
increment area,
increment
yes.
area. Okay.
The base would be set at that time for that specific area.
And it would capture any of the new growth that had happened in there. So that's the first thing. And I think my second comment, Pete, I think that's an interesting concept. I've always been incredibly proud of the fact that we've exceeded our budget, in some of these TIFs. To me, it means that we've been extraordinarily more successful than we thought we were going to be in attracting development, and it allows additional cash flow to do more projects that build on top of each other.
Except for the last part of your statement, I agree with you completely. My view is, how long do we subsidize?
Right, and
That's
that's a really,
my view. It doesn't have anything to do with not being proud of what we've done so far, but at some point, subsidy becomes, I would hope, the whole purpose is that at some point the subsidy becomes unnecessary. I worry that we, as hard as I think Brett works at it, and Kathy works at it, and the other people that are involved, I'm not sure that we'll ever really know until we stop one.
I think it's a very good point.
I
I'd
think
like
that's
to
the
look at
best
it too.
point you've made, is what does it look like without the TIF?
That's what my concern is.
Well, and again, I think it depends on when it gets stopped. If it gets stopped at year 20, it may happen anyway. I mean, because you've created the market, you've created all of this new economic growth. If you stop it in year 5, you're going to have a completely different outcome.
No, I think, I agree with that, I understand that, but I think it could be related somehow to the success. I think a percentage, when it exceeds the initial budget by a certain amount, I think that would be, and part of that's for lack of a better idea on my part. I mean, that's just the best idea I could come up with. I mean, you guys can probably figure out a better one, but, and you might say, at 150% of initial budget, but not sooner than 10 years or something. I'm looking for a way to test it.
Well, and it may be that we just set some dates where it comes back to the city council for a complete review.
I'm open for
that may accomplish the same
I'm open for that, but I do think it ought to be vetted. I'm saying the same thing over and over.
It's an interesting idea, and I don't think we're all opposed to pursuing that. If you set a percent, there's all kinds of things that could influence that. You could get into an 2008 recession again that's caused by the real estate. You get into an energy sector or worldwide recession that affects some things.
Right.
So just having an opportunity to come back and review it might be a better way, just to come back. You can take a look at the successes to date and put that in light to where the city's going and what's needed at that time.
The other question I had was the sales tax. Does the state, in the sales tax portion of the TIF at the Skirvin, and I should know this, but I don't. It says how much money has been deferred, how much of the sales tax has gone into the TIF. and then you show the
state.
the state's portion, does that also go into the TIF, or does it go to the state?
No,
They're
it goes to the TIF. Actually, what happens is we make an application to the state, and they reimburse us for the 2%. They match the city's 2% sales tax and return it to us for a 25-year period or something.
It may be the only time where we have access to state funds for economic.
Yeah, it's one of the few times the state helps us. Yeah. And we did that with.
But we have to-
It's called the, I'm going to get it wrong, the.
Star bonds.
Investment Act, the Local Investment Act. It's not it's not part of the Local Development Act. And it only applies to sales tax, and it only applies to sales tax that is related to job creation and investment. It can't be used for retail. So we did it on the Skirvin, and we did it on Dell, are the two that and we did it on the construction sales tax on the Devon Tower.
Right. We have to give up the sales tax ourselves. They just match us.
Yes.
Whatever our
Right.
contribution
We have
is,
to
they match
capture,
it. so.
we have to capture our 2%.
Right.
And they match that.
If we put skin in the
what,
game from.
from the
Right.
4.5% that was paid.
If we put skin in the game from our sales tax, they're willing.
They'll put some of their, yeah, okay.
All right. Ed, do you want to say something?
I do. This is a lot to digest. And in the future, I hope we can have additional conversations. If we could get these PowerPoints even the night before, I think it would add, this is too much for me to digest, and I look forward to getting them emailed also. And I want to say that I think that the process now is night and day better, night and day different, and better than in any time during my previous 5 years on the council. And what's making it better is that more people are involved, that we're having these meetings with the schools, which I don't think happened before, not in my 5 years. Pete's going to the meetings. There's more eyes on it. There's more people. We're studying what happened in the schools. I don't think that 6 months ago we really understood all the implications, and I know the schools didn't. So I think that the process is drastically improving, and I just want to make that clear. But I think that what's making it better is that more people are understanding how TIFs work, more people are involved in the decision-making, whereas in years prior, it has been a woefully small number of people. It's nothing personal. If you're going to have someone with disproportionate influence, I'm happy for that person to be you. But in the future, you may or may not be here. It may be X, Y, or Z person. And you just, to me, it seems like the more eyes, the better. So you have, I believe, a tremendous amount of power in this process. No one, to my knowledge, has ever said no to you. No TIF committee has ever voted against anything you've presented in this for a TIF proposal. Once the process starts, and once you say multiple times today you said we decided that, and we decided and we took it to the TIF committee. Once we decides, whoever that is, no one has ever said no. I'd be surprised if the TIF committee, every single vote wasn't unanimous. I know that every vote here has been unanimous except maybe for myself and maybe Pete a couple of times. So no one ever says no once that process. So who is involved in starting those decisions about allocations is very important, and keeping a record of who's being denied for an allocation request and who's getting them and what procedures are in place. Having the maximum transparency, I think, is of paramount importance, and I haven't seen that in the years prior. So I would say that I don't understand all, this today is, I think we are not driving policy. I mean, 6 months ago, the council on your recommendation said, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do these 2 different TIFs. Today, we're reversing course. Why? Because you're telling us that that's your recommendation. We're pulling out 499 Sheridan. That's a significant change from 6 months ago. I'm not really sure I understand why we're doing that today. That's a significant amount of money that's being moved, and I'm not sure. I think I have an idea, but I'm not sure. But it's basically because you're recommending it. That's why we're doing it. So, why are we excluding 499 Sheridan?
Well, because in the downtown TIF district, the way it is right now, because they are not receiving a TIF allocation, it is an indirect project. So the taxing jurisdictions will receive one half of the indirect, one half of the increment. And we felt that that was something that they would appreciate. And, you know, so for the remainder, the last 10 years of the TIF district, they'll get half of the incremental taxes from that development. If it were in the new TIF district, they may not get half. They may get some other, if we do sharing, it would be some other formula. And we felt that, you know, getting half for the remainder of the TIF, and then when the TIF expires, getting all of it would be beneficial to them.
So we felt that the schools would appreciate it. So it's, in a way, it's a concession, or it's something that we think I-89 would appreciate.
It's just
Yeah,
not
and if
I-89, it's
I-89
any other taxing jurisdiction.
And the other taxing
Yeah.
jurisdictions.
And if they come back and say, no, we'd really rather you just keep it in the new one, then we can change the boundary. But
Okay.
it was.
And there's some discussion that might be.
Yeah, and there is some
better. So
discussion
it's
that
not a-
they might rather have it in. So it just kind of depends on where we end up in our discussions with them about how to share revenues.
So it's possible that we could put 499 Sheridan back in?
Yes.
Based on negotiations with I-89 and other taxing jurisdictions?
Yeah.
Okay. So in effect, what we're voting today to study is really the creation of 6 new TIFs within one project plan.
Yes.
And that's possible because of some recent changes at the state legislature level. Is that correct?
A few years ago. Yeah.
So in creating 6 TIFs, I mean, I guess I don't, each time that you trigger one of these 6 to go into effect, do you have to go back to the council? Do you have to
Yes.
create a new committee? What?
No, there would not be a new committee. There'd be one committee that works under this project plan. But each time it's, you know, considered to trigger the next TIF district, that would have to come back to city council.
So if we think that there's a possibility that one of these might not get triggered for 3, 5, 10 years.
Maybe ever.
Forever. And downtown is changing rapidly. And downtown today is not the same as it was 5 years ago, and certainly not 10 years ago. Why would we delineate the boundaries of a potential TIF, 6 TIFs, today versus delineating the boundaries of the TIF we know we want to use, and then 5 years from now doing a new TIF, maybe with the modifications to accommodate changes over that 5 years?
I mean, some of it, I think, is having the flexibility to respond to development proposals and changes in the market. I think some of it is a tool that adds to the predictability of development. But the way you've stated it is certainly another way that it can be done. That's the way we've done it in the past.
But we could change that. If 5 years from now, something needs to be changed before the third one gets triggered, it can be changed at that point in time as to what the allocation.
You can change the boundaries of one of the 6.
I don't know that you can change the boundary.
But you can change.
You can? Okay. Yeah.
What's that?
You could make a plan amendment to change the boundaries at that time.
Yeah, we're changing the project area right now. But since the increment area had not been set yet on the future ones, you could change the boundaries. It's the increment area that, you know, is the driving.
Right. To Pete's point, what was the original budget of TIF 2? And what is the current budget?
I think it was about 40 million, and it's 120 million now.
So we're at 300% of what we originally envisioned. I guess my final comment, and I'd like to digest this, and I hope we can talk about it. Correlation doesn't necessarily imply causation. If 2 things happen at the same time, it doesn't mean that one is causing the other, or one is causing 100% of the other. So the fact that you have growth downtown at the same time that you have the TIFs does not necessarily imply causation that the TIF created 100% of the growth. Thank you.
Don't disagree with that.
Kathy, if I could just, I think this is the best presentation I've ever heard on TIF in terms of being inclusive and laying out the successes or the failures, as in the case of La Rosa, you know, in one of them. And that graph that showed the incremental difference that the district has I-89 is received because of it, you know, I think it's really important for folks to understand. So thank you to you and your staff for taking the time. I think some great amendments have been made, as Pete said. I think there's some really good ideas that will help us go forward and make this a more valuable tool than it has been in the past.
I really like the idea. You mentioned something about having a goal of no debt and doing it at pay-as-you-go. I think that is a really good next step for future TIFs, because that's one of the biggest issues I have.
And that is how TIF 9 is structured, is that the plan is to not issue any debt on TIF 9, because really all TIF does is reduce our ability to provide incentives to projects because of the interest costs. So that's what we're trying to do on TIF 9, so it'll be interesting to see how it works. But
Mark?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Meg's comments. I thought it was an outstanding presentation, especially for somebody that's new on the council. And I'm hoping that we do this more often in the future because it was really beneficial to me. And the one thing I'm still trying to get my head around is, and I didn't hear what you said, but the TIF land in comparison to Oklahoma County, is it representative of what percentage?
in Oklahoma County, I think all of our TIF districts are about 0.9% of the total land area of Oklahoma County.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I just want to follow up on what Meg said. When I first started to get heavily involved in this, it was a result of conversations I had with school board members. Not one of them, not one, understood what was going on. They had all kinds of ideas about it, but not one. And one of the things I think that this is going to happen is, that will happen as a result of this, is people that are in positions like Brett and Kathy will probably be more aware of their need to make sure that those people are brought up to speed. And we as city council members need to do that also, because they really don't have a say in it. We can pass it here no matter what they say. And that's a huge responsibility for us to think about that. We can pass the 9 votes, 5 of the 9 can do it here without the school board, the county, without OCCC, any of the entities that. And I think we need to take that responsibility more seriously than we have in the past. I don't think most of us even realize that. I can remember asking questions, is the school on board? And then when I go talk to school board members, they don't know what I'm talking about. Now, there was a system in place where certain people, not everybody on the board, but certain people knew what was going on. But that's not good enough. If there are elected officials involved at the school board, at the county, any place, at Metro Tech, any place where there are elected officials involved, we have an obligation to make sure they understand what we're getting ready to do to them or for them. And I think that's one change I hope will come out of all this. It's certainly dramatically changed in the last 6 months.
David?
Thank you, Your Honor. Kathy, I just want to share with you my hope that we can continue to look at expanding these TIFs, and perhaps they won't be the only component, but there are areas in Oklahoma City, if we could combine away from the downtown area, a TIF to encourage economic development. I'm thinking in terms of, for example, Southeast 29th Street from east of Robinson all the way over to I-35 is an old oil field service area. Develop a TIF that would attract businesses, perhaps in the same industry, perhaps in a different one, but at the same time, develop the neighborhoods around it to where people could find affordable housing, walk back and forth to their place of employment along Southeast 29th Street. Do the same for Central Avenue. We could go west over to Agnew, for example, between south of the retail area, but down to 29th Street, there's some steel fabrication plants. Same along South Pennsylvania between Exchange Avenue down to 25th Street. Areas where there are currently industrial activity going on, but immediately surrounding it are homes that were built pre-1940, and people continue to live there. We have a great opportunity, I think, to provide affordable housing walk within their community to places of employment and just kind of transcend certain parts of the city that have just been left undeserved. So downtown's important, but I am really attracted to these opportunities, and I hope the Northeast Renaissance, John, with that residential component attached to the retail development, really takes hold and gives us, a roadmap to do that throughout the city. There's just a lot of areas I think we could focus on. Thank you.
All right, ready to vote? Is there a motion on item 9L? Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. 9M is a companion item. Is there a motion there?
Second.
All right, cast your votes. And it passes unanimously as well. Item 9N has been deferred until September 29th. Moves us on to item 9O. I understand we do not need executive session on this item. All right, is there a motion then to approve item 9O? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. And item 9P is a companion item from the MFA item that we moved into executive session. So I guess we need a motion to move item P into executive session as well. All right, cast your votes. And item 9P moves to executive session. Item 9Q, I understand we do need executive session on this item. So is there a motion to move item Q into executive session? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9R is claims recommended for denial. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9R? All right, how about a motion? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 10 is claims recommended for approval. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under item 10? All right, how about a motion then on item 10? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 11 is items from council. We'll start with an amendment that has been provided by a variety of council members and myself. And Meg, you've been mostly involved. Do you want to start the discussion here on item 11A?
I would, and I really would appreciate hearing a little bit from council. This is I think, a very simple change to an existing ordinance that we have that simply adds a definition of median to the description of locations where soliciting is prohibited, and it repeals any exceptions for soliciting in medians or on the street. So Cindy, maybe you could just kind of run through the change, and then I know there are lots of folks here. I believe a lot of people have signed up to speak to this.
Sure. In a nutshell, let me just say what we currently have in the ordinance. Currently, it says that there'll be no standing in a roadway to solicit a ride or donations or employments or business, and no standing in a street, roadway, or park to stop or attempt to stop and engage any person in a vehicle for contributions or selling something or handing circulars, handbills, campaign literature, samples, souvenirs, or gifts into a vehicle, and no doing anything else in any of those areas that would interrupt the normal flow of traffic. And then it provides an exception for those who have a permit to do soliciting in the roadway. So that's what we currently have. What the amendment will do is add the definition of median to 32-1, which is Chapter 32 Motor Vehicles listing of definitions for the chapter. So median will be added there. And then in addition to standing in 32-458, it will also add walking. So no standing or walking in a roadway, median, or those other areas. Median, of course, will be added to the list of prohibited areas in which to do these actions of standing or walking. And then it removes, as Councilwoman Salyer said, it removes the permit exception for soliciting in a roadway. So that's what the ordinance does.
And the current permit is $1,000, correct?
$200.
Oh, it's 200. Okay.
Yes.
I thought I read 3.
So Cindy, there have been, I think, a couple of misconceptions about this, and I would like to make some remarks, but I think the most important that I'd like to ask you to address are penalties and jail, because a lot of social media is suggesting that we're going to be picking people up off the street and throwing them into jail because they can't pay their fines. please talk to us about that.
Okay. I've seen some of those comments too, so I appreciate the opportunity to clarify on that, Councilwoman. Violations of 32-458 are currently, and even with the amendment, will be a Class A offense. A Class A offense has a maximum fine of $500 plus court costs. However, council has a chart in Chapter 33 of the code that sets out a fine or an amount that can be paid if you just want to go up to the court clerk's counter and close your Class A case without ever having to go to court. This would fall under the miscellaneous criminal fine in that chart, and that is a total with the fine and costs and the state mandated fees is $167. So then the question becomes, what if a person can't pay that $167? So what I want to say about that is for the last several years, and particularly under presiding Judge James, there has been a significant focus on dealing with persons in poverty or who have financial hardship at a given time. And we conduct what are called Rule 8 hearings. So when the judge finds out that a person has a problem with being able to pay, a Rule 8 hearing is conducted to look into their financial situation and make a determination as to whether they need more time to pay or if they have no foreseeable ability to pay any time in the near future. And so what the court can do is either grant time to pay to an individual, or if they just determine the person is unable to pay, the law currently says you don't put people in jail for their inability to pay. So nobody goes to jail because they're poor. It's kind of like, back in the old days for a civil debt, people could go to the poorhouse. We don't do that anymore either. And for criminal fines, we don't put people in jail because they can't pay. So that's the reality of this issue.
So I want to be really clear. People will not go to jail because they cannot pay these fines.
That's correct.
Okay.
What happens if they just ignore the process, they don't go to court, so they have a warrant, and then they're picked up on a warrant? What would happen?
Absolutely, they can be picked up on a warrant as anybody could for failing to appear in court. However, we also have that same system implemented for jail defendants that they come up for review. On a Class A offense, it's generally within 10 hours that they're able to come up for review for an own recognizance bond and be released without posting any money.
So I think maybe, Mayor, if I could at this point, I'd like to just make a couple of comments. And then,
Yeah, sure.
As I first of all want to thank my colleagues on the council for signing on to this. I'm certain that I am not the only council person that gets a phone call about 5 times a day concerning this issue, and it is a citywide problem. And Cindy, I want to thank you for clarifying, because I think there has been a lot of misunderstanding in social media and other places about our intent for this. But, Oklahoma City is a very, very special place and incredibly generous. But, as a modern, urban, exceedingly generous city, we're not immune from the challenges that are faced by other communities around the country. It's my opinion that the obligation to provide services and support for our least fortunate citizens is one that we share with an incredibly well-trained and professional social services agencies in this community and the faith community. I really think that great strides have been made in Oklahoma City in the last few years to help service those that are most needy. But in my opinion, the incidents of panhandling, which I clearly separate from the truly needy and the homeless in the metro, and in fact, according to the Homeless Alliance, the number of chronic homeless in our community, based on the point-in-time count that we do every year, has actually decreased. But the incidence of panhandling has become a major, major concern to citizens throughout our community. A comprehensive coalition of social service agencies that include the Homeless Alliance, City Rescue Mission, Jesus House, Upward Transition, City Care, faith groups like The Voice, some of whom I see here today, legal and law enforcement, have been meeting with city staff, with myself and others for more than 2 years to work on a citywide education campaign and an enforcement toolkit that would help incorporate best practices from around cities all over the country to help address this distinction that needs to be made between the business of panhandling and the ability for us to help those truly in need. The ordinance today, I just want to be very clear, it's just being introduced today. There is always room for discussion, but this is just one tiny piece of what we hope will be a much larger community-wide effort to try to solve this problem and help those most needy. And as Cindy said, it only does two things. It adds a definition of medians, restricts people from standing on medians and walking in the streets, and it eliminates or repeals the exception for those with a permit. The items that haven't changed are the fines, and I do want to say that there was a discussion about increasing fines for this, and collectively we decided that that was inappropriate to increase the fines, and it has remained as a Class A penalty, and those folks that are unable to pay will not go to jail. I think it is woefully clear that the city's social services budget has been insufficient for years, and we've talked about this around this horseshoe for a long time. But I credit our staff who's been gifted in identifying federal opportunities to address needs. We would not have the Westtown campus or the Resource Center if our staff hadn't creatively figured out how to use stimulus dollars to create those facilities. And we hadn't had a day shelter in Oklahoma City since 1996, just after the bombing. We've done great work in that regard. Chief City and his staff embraced best procedures for things that he learned about around the country, including a homeless outreach team. And those folks, led by Bobby Thompson to start with, and now another team, have made real differences in the lives of many people on the streets. Private efforts like the highly successful Curbside Chronicle, which is something that I admire tremendously, has changed people's lives, and we look to find ways to help them continue to do that. My hope with the introduction of this ordinance today is to continue a dialogue and to continue to explore creative ideas and solutions. This isn't perfect. It's just one idea. I think the public education piece is probably the most important thing that we can do. And I will say that trying to build consensus around what that campaign looks like and what the message is has been very difficult. But I commit to continue to working on it. So my goal here is to keep Oklahoma City safe for all, honoring our tradition of generous spirit and our true desire to help those truly needy and to help direct funds to the agencies providing it rather than to those who choose panhandling as a business.
All right, the item is just being introduced today, and if approved, it'll be up for public hearing on September 29th. But we do have a number of people that have showed up today and signed up. I would prefer to let them speak, save them a return trip down here in 2 weeks. And I think there was some misleading media that seemed to imply that they should come down today, when in fact they should come when the public hearing occurs. Nonetheless, why don't we allow people to come up and speak? I would ask them to keep their comments to 3 minutes or less. Carol Sullivan. Good morning. Carol, we'll need your name and address.
I'm Carol Sullivan. I'm from the Venice neighborhood. I live at 3139 Venice Boulevard. I'm part of Ward 2. And I think it's wonderful that the council is taking the panhandling issue on. It's bothering a lot of people. It seems to be becoming a bigger problem. And I fully and completely support an education program to help people understand how their generosity can actually go to help more people by supporting community service organizations instead of handling to one. What concerns me is if this becomes illegal for people to do this, now we have to get someone to enforce it. And our police department is already so strapped. They're so understaffed. And as a resident, I really depend on the police to help me feel safe in my home. We have burglaries, we have car thefts, we have a lot of real crime in the city, and it just bothers me that we're going to have to take those resources away from protecting us from these crimes to enforce a ban on median panhandling. And that's kind of what I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Carol, thanks for coming down. Suzanne Nichols. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Suzanne Nichols. I live in Ward 1, 5604 North Warren, which is almost War Acres, but it's Oklahoma City. I am with Voice, which is a group of about 30 other organizations, churches, nonprofits, and some unions. And we have a project currently to study the fines and fees that have been assessed against people who are in jails, making them come out of jail very indebted. And so our reaction was immediately more fines and fees. I do appreciate hearing today, especially from you, Councilman Salyer, since we've worked together on this, and from council, that there are ways that have been set up already to prevent people from being incarcerated for not being able to pay these fines. That is something that we definitely do not want. We do not want to see people who may be in straits and maybe are not just there panhandling for themselves, but may be trafficked in one way or another and being abused in one way or another. We don't want to see the people on the street be the ones that carry the burden, and we don't want to see the city carry the burden of incarceration, which is expensive, as you all know. So we want to continue to work with the city to be sure that we know that the people on the street may not be the people we need to help. I've even made a plea very much like that from the pulpit at my church when we were collecting a benevolence offering, to say, give your money here so we can help more than one person at a time. I know it's difficult. Oklahomans want to help. We are very generous, but we need to learn and be taught. The education plan is very important, to be taught that giving to organizations is much better than giving to a person on the street who you don't know where the money may go. I don't like seeing them there. I don't want people on my doorstep, on my street, nor do I want people in parking lots. And I've been approached in parking lots and gas stations for money or gasoline. I don't like any of that. It makes me feel unsafe, but I don't want to put people in jail or prison. So I think if we've can come up with a good compromise and a good administrative plan, that support will be there as long as the education plan is in process. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Suzanne. Eddie Green. All right. Looks like we lost Eddie. Cecilia Robinson Woods. Okay. She also left. Christopher Harrison.
Good morning, Christopher Harrison, Ward 7, 1425 Northeast 48th Street here in Oklahoma City. I'm actually standing here in the capacity on the behalf of Millwood Public Schools, where I currently serve as the board president. What we've run into, and want to definitely thank Councilwoman Salyer for putting this into place, because we had a concern that began coming through the superintendent's office. We were experiencing a number of panhandlers there in the school district, there at Martin Luther King and I-44 exit, that area there, as well as in the median. But as I began to speak with my superintendent and receive calls from voters and everyone else in our district, the secondary concern that came about is, even if we exclude the median piece, we still have people that are very, very close to the school district area. And the data that we were receiving wants us to believe that those individuals who may be there may not be the most safe for our students. We do understand that they have their First Amendment right to definitely be there. But what we found is, of course, our students are bound by law to go to school. So they're being confronted when leaving the bus, and also walking back and forth from school, as well as traveling, trying to get to public transportation as well. So we're kind of asking if the council would look with the ordinance, an exclusion or 1,000 feet or et cetera for school districts, all inclusive. But of course, I stand here on behalf of Millwood, but I think I stand on behalf of all public schools.
Yeah,
when we say that we want that.
concerns me. Where are you seeing this? Is it
It
near
is
the school?
directly in the median, there, up under the crossing bridge.
If I may, board, those pictures, we have a total of 3
It's on
pictures.
I-44, or it's?
It's the overpass and then Martin Luther King area.
Right.
So it's the actual median there, and then I think we have the pictures there. There we go.
Okay. Right, okay.
Right.
Christopher, thanks for bringing this to our attention. See if we can't figure out a way to help.
Okay, and I give my regrets for the superintendent as well as Eddie Green as well. They both had a family emergency, so they had to leave.
I'm glad you came down.
Thanks.
Leah Gramling?
Hello, I'm
Morning.
Dr. Leah Gramling. Good morning. I reside at 8605 Arlington Drive in Oklahoma City, and I as well came down with concerns for the students at Millwood Public School. My children go there, but I'm concerned for all the students there. You know, I'm dropping them off in the mornings, picking them up, various activities after school, and those panhandlers. It's just one that I've seen, but at one time, but various times throughout the day, there have been multiple. And they have students walking to and from school. They're walking to and from the food areas, and they have to pass by. And I've seen them trying to cross traffic to avoid the panhandler. And so that causes a concern. And so I just came to support that you all also look into adding a distance from schools so that our children can feel safe.
All right. Thanks for coming down.
Cindy, Mayor, I'm sorry, I know this is just for introduction. You've got somebody else on.
Yeah, I've got a few more.
Okay.
All right. T.A. Cooper Turner?
Good morning. My name is Mrs. Cooper Turner, and I'm a grandparent of children in the Millwood School District. And it bothers my heart that at times they don't feel safe. And my husband and I were taking one of our grandchildren to school, and we saw a group of children quickly dart across the street to try to avoid the panhandler. Well, in that moment, cars began to screech, trying not to hit the children. That's a big concern. And not only that, there are times during the day when these children pass from building to building to take classes. And those individuals are still coming back and forth. We saw one of the panhandlers park in the Millwood parking area to go do what he was doing. That's very unsafe for our children. We not only have K through 12 there, we also have a preschool there. And I would hate for something to happen to any of these children. I think we have to be very proactive so that we won't have to be reactive to a situation. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for coming down. Tom Furlong?
Hi, Tom Furlong, 1301 Northwest 19th. Meg may be my counselor, the councilman, I'm not sure. There's a simple fact of economics. Anything you tax, you'll have less of. Anything you subsidize, you'll have more of. The reason we have people panhandling is because people flip them $5 or $10 because their conscience hurts. It's silly. Now, I was before the council for one other time for this very reason, and I said, why can't we outlaw this? Well, the attorney kindly told me that it's a matter of free speech. They need to be able to ask for money. Could we outlaw people giving to these people? Could we do that? Could we make it illegal?
There are some cities that have passed ordinances that make it the police officers to give the car a ticket for stopping and disrupting traffic.
I'm just looking for solutions, and I was very happy to hear Ms. Salyer in some way indicate that you are conversing with other cities who have this problem, because there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Surely there's a city in America somewhere that has dealt effectively with this problem. And I read your article this morning in the paper. After that, on newsok.com, all kinds of people making comments. One lady said, we need to just give these people money and not worry about their need. That's wrong. Ministry without involvement is wrong. And if you give these people money, you're enabling them to continue in this sinful lifestyle. I've talked to many police officers and people in the know. They tell me that about 75% of these people are not needy. It's their job. $400 to $600 a day some of these people make. It's silly. Okay, that's about it.
All right. Tom, thanks. All right, I guess we need a motion. You want to say anything else before we have the item introduced today? Sir, you need to come up if you want to speak. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Michael C. Washington. I'm the executive director of Empower People, Inc. Our motto is change your world and your world will change around you. I live at 2900 Northeast 18th Street here in Oklahoma City. Thank you for acknowledging me. I don't know how my paper got missed, but I'm glad to speak. Anyhow, I'm here today to strongly oppose this so-called joke for a TIF committee.
Well, we're not on citizens to be heard yet. We're talking about the ordinance on panhandling.
Oh, the panhandling. Oh, my goodness. Which one? I've got to go. I'm waiting on that.
Yeah, I'll call you back up when you
I've got to go on that.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we introduce this ordinance today.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I appreciate, I think that we don't have a lot of statistics. That I don't know where that 75% came from, but I asked Boyd to see if we could get statistics on public safety or the composition. We really are kind of flying blind. I think that while the concerns are legitimate, and I appreciate the conversation, I do think that there is heterogeneity of those who are engaged in panhandlers. They're not all the same. There are those who are trying to get money for their football team. There are those who are engaged in aggressive panhandling. There are many who are mentally ill, and there are many who are suffering from substance abuse and addiction issues. And if you're just looking at this in a vacuum, the conversation today suffices. But I appreciate Meg's comment about the woeful inadequacy that this council and as a city government and the state government that we have taken towards addressing our mental health and addiction issues. This council has acted in ways that are not just indifferent to the poor, but are hostile to the poor. Moving our transit-dependent, many impoverished riders from downtown to Martin Luther King in Reno, where there's no connectivity to transit, is one of the most sadistic acts I've heard of a city doing towards the poor, ever. The fact that we have a $121,000 social services budget, that we don't increase it for inflation, we don't increase it as the sales tax and the revenue increases, but it's been stuck at $121,000 for years, is many ways, some of this is the chickens coming home to roost. We are not making the investments. We do not have any long-term inpatient facility for addiction in a greater metro area of 1 million people. We are not making the investments as a city government and as a state government to deal with mental illness, to deal with addiction, to deal with poverty, to deal with homelessness. And this is some of the consequence. So if our only solution is to look towards incarceration for addiction, to look at fines, criminalizing behavior, it is not going to work, it has never worked, and it's not going to work in the future. The fact that, one thing that, we already have ordinances that address going into the street and aggressive panhandling. This addresses panhandling, but this is also saying that you can't walk in the median, right? This goes beyond panhandling. It has if I understand it correct me if I'm wrong, but walking in the median is now going to be illegal. Is that correct?
No, walking for the purpose of soliciting a ride, donation, employment. Yeah.
So you can walk in the median as long as you're not soliciting. Okay, I want to make sure that we're not just trying to get rid of people that we don't want to see or that makes us uncomfortable. I have read of other practices. I'm not convinced that we have looked at all best practices in other cities. You cited another alternative. What would happen if you put up signs in your most plagued, beleaguered intersections that just educated the populace and told them not to give? What would be the consequence of that? What would be the downside of an education program, a pilot program, to pick your most beleaguered intersection and try different alternatives and see if they work before you start assessing fines? I don't see that we as a city have tried any alternatives first. And so as we move through the next 4 weeks, those will be the things on my mind. Thanks.
I'd just say in response to that, as far as Ward 8's concerned, I'm constantly getting called with problems that we're having on May, Pennsylvania, and Western. And I'm all for helping others. And I think that's an important component of our function in society. But in this instance, we're at the point where this is growing and it's becoming a public safety issue. And somebody's going to get hurt if we don't do something about it soon.
Mark, you're not outlying parking lots, right? They can still approach people in parking lots. They can still approach people outside. I think our aggressive statute deals with that, on approaching in parking lots and ATMs right now. Does it? Okay, so the only place it doesn't is in the median?
No, that's a different ordinance. That's not the ordinance before you today. The aggressive panhandling ordinance is a different one. I know it addresses ATMs. I'm not sure about parking lots.
I think it's just ATMs, but it does address ATMs.
But if you're not engaged in aggressive panhandling, you can still ask for people for money in a parking lot or outside of business or...
Except you're trespassing on private property doing that.
If you're on private property, you cannot. If the business owner does not allow you to do that.
What about public property?
There's no way we can outlaw it there. Unless they're being aggressive.
Can you say that again?
That was going to be my...
I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry. First of all, I'm Richard Smith, City Attorney's Office. If they're on private property, the private property owner can sign a trespass citation. If they're on public property, like a sidewalk, we can't do anything about it unless they're being aggressive. And we've defined it aggressive panhandling.
And Rick, so that was my question. The city has the ability to manage the time, place, and manner
Yes, ma'am.
for solicitation. So we have set regulations that say you can't approach somebody at an ATM. You can't approach people after dark. You can't, I mean, there are a series of things that are contained in the aggressive panhandling ordinance.
Yes, ma'am.
And, okay, so one of the ideas that some other cities have had are some expansions, perhaps. I'm wondering about the school property as an example of...
It is. You know,
possibly,
I want to interject. All we're doing is introducing the
Right,
item.
sorry.
And there's going to be a public hearing in 2 weeks, but we did want to let these people speak. And so I'd rather push conversation off to that public hearing if that's all right.
I'll try to keep mine short. The gentleman who suggested we criminalize the giving is not wrong. Everybody thought that's funny. That's not wrong. That's why they're there. It works. If people quit giving them the money, they wouldn't be there. I mean, it's just simple as, it's simple. The other thing I'm concerned about is the number of social service agencies that I heard from. Not one of them said this is a good idea. Not one of them said it was a good idea. All across the map, they all said this is not a good idea. I'd like to see in this next 2 weeks that some of those agencies, some of which are heavily supported by the city that don't think it's a good idea, kind of be brought to the table. Maybe they could help us with some of the solution. I'd like to see that within the next couple of weeks. I got an apology letter from one of them that was apologizing for stating his opinion. I thought, who jerked his chain? I mean, why would he feel like he needed to apologize? That's the business that he's in. And I felt that, I really didn't like that. There's some reason he felt like he needed to apologize, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't want to know at this point. I'm afraid what I might find out. But I would like to see us sit down with Voice and the Homeless Alliance and all these agencies that are involved in it and see if they have another solution. And have that
I'd be very
2
clear
weeks.
that I have sat down with the Voice on 3 different occasions. I've sat down with the head of every single agency, from Dan Strawn to Tom Jones to upward transitions, and law enforcement and the fire department, and we are all working on this. And I will commit to you that we're going to continue to work on it. But those people have been around the table. It's happening.
Well,
all right, Mr. Mayor, I just have one additional, and I promise I'll do it 30 seconds.
Okay.
My concern deals with panhandling near schools. We have students, particular Millwood, that use public transportation to get to school, but these panhandlers have been, oftentimes the last few weeks, have been very, very aggressive, where Millwood Public School had to have the sheriff deputies to escort students from the bus stop to the school because of these panhandlers. My concern deals with panhandling near schools.
That has to stop, no question. Public hearing September 29th on this issue. Other items from council. Mark, do you have anything for us?
Nothing, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have to vote to introduce it. All right, we have a motion?
Yes, we have a motion.
And a second. All right, cast your votes, and that item is introduced. And the public hearing is September 29th, and the final hearing is now scheduled for October 13th. All right, Mark?
Nothing at this time.
John?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. About a week ago, we lost the mayor of Arcadia, Marilyn Morrell. She served as the mayor of Arcadia for several years, and she definitely will be missed, as well as we lost on last week the Ward 7 councilman in Lawton, Oklahoma, who also served the city of Lawton for a number of years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Meg?
I think not here.
All right, David?
Busy.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to mention, and I hope Pete will discuss it a little bit more in detail, or perhaps wait until a more appropriate time. But last week we had a hearing at the Parks Commission concerning the possibility of partnering with the City County Health Department on a facility that's designed to provide education in the area of improving a person's health. It's not a treatment center, but it's more from an education perspective. And it would be a partnership with the Metropolitan Library System, the Oklahoma City Public Schools. Other organizations, for-profit, not-for-profit, want to participate in this, which is all great, and it's going to be a great facility. For those who have not yet toured the City County Health Department's new facilities up on Northeast 63rd Street, this new facility will be similar, unfortunately not as large or expansive, but it'll be very nice. And yet some misinformation began to be shared in the area. And what I'm mainly concerned with is that some of this misinformation was being shared by elected officials. And I just find that very offensive, that elected officials would stoop to provide misinformation just to prevent something as beneficial as this to go forward. And the reason why I'm saying this is I think we have a responsibility whenever we see that happening to call those people out and point that out to them as well as to the public. Thank you.
Pete?
David, I appreciate that. I'm not going to go into it because I couldn't say it any better than that. I appreciate that very much. Within the next couple of weeks, maybe not the next meeting, but the following one, which would be 4 weeks away, I plan to have a presentation of that, excuse me, made to the council. That project, it is really a beautiful project. I mean, it's really wonderful. I mean, it's the first time, one of its kind in the whole country, I think. No, we've never had that kind of synergy where we assembled that many separate agencies and put them together on the, all kind of pulling on the same rope. And I just so much appreciate what you said, David, because it really is a good project. Been kind of in the planning stages for a couple of years, trying to get 7 separate public entities to pull on the same rope is kind of like herding cats, and that's why it hasn't been more public, but we're ready to go public with it. We've kind of got it put together, and hopefully 2 weeks from now, and not later than 4 weeks from now, we'll make a presentation to the council about what all we're talking about. It's really a nice opportunity.
All right. Larry?
Thank you, Your Honor. I see Georgie Rasco out there, and Georgie, I may be stealing your thunder, but tonight is Neighborhood Night Out, a time for neighbors to get together, and there'll be various activities going on around town. So I'd like to encourage you, if your neighborhood is having a Neighborhood Night Out tonight, to participate. And then some of the neighborhoods are scheduling events at other times, thinking outside the box. But it's a great way to get your neighbors involved. And a lot of the things that we've talked about today, alert, involved neighbors are the solution. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ed?
Just that I see several members of the Native American community in the back who've been sitting through this extended meeting, and some of which I know and have great respect for, so I look forward to hearing from them. Thanks for sitting through this meeting.
James? All right. City manager reports.
We will start out with Mr. Carrier from CVB to give us an update on his activities. Mike?
Thank you, sir. Council, good to see you all. We have recently finished our fiscal 15 year. It was a good year. As I've said before, it's kind of like Jell-O. There's always room for more, so it can be better, but we had a pretty good year. We started out with 346 slides. We've cut it down to 22, and we'll try to move through those as rapidly as we can. In our convention sales area, we had a good year this year. This picture, we actually cheated just a little bit, and I will admit to that. This is a shot from an event that occurred the end of July when we had 24,000 United Pentecostal youth here in Oklahoma City. This was about, they had sold about 17,000 tickets for their event in Chesapeake Arena and put several thousand more across the street in the Cox Arena and did a satellite broadcast over to the other arena so they could all participate. This is the kind of business that we continue to try to bring to Oklahoma City. So the results from this year, our sales leads, that's the pipeline for future business coming to Oklahoma City, went up by 20%, 464,000 future room nights that we worked on this year, and many of those we'll continue to work on for as many as 2 to 3 more years before they make a final decision about coming here. In our definite bookings, I believe, future room nights, 17% increase, 225,000 definite room nights booked over the course of this past fiscal year. Our bookings up 10% from 199 groups to 219 groups. Bottom line, we're seeing more and more interest in Oklahoma City. People appreciate what's going on here. They're interested in coming here, and we are indeed seeing more activity. Groups serviced. Once we book a group, we don't just forget that they're here and turn them over to someone else. We continue to work with them, and this year we went up 9%. Our convention services folks worked with 272 groups over the course of the year, and we see that continuing to grow in future years. Tourism sales is not just leisure sales, it's also motor coach sales. Motor coach is the one area that we can track, although we're tracking that sort of on the back end, and we rely very heavily on our attraction partners and hotel partners. The numbers you'll see this year, we had a slight decrease in the tour groups that came through the city. Part of that is because we did not have some of the activities this year that we have had in the past. Folks didn't travel like we anticipated them to. Part of it is because with some of the changeovers in hotels and attractions, we were not able to get as much of the information as we typically get. But 592 versus 602, it's still good business. We still see reasons to be involved in that, and we expect that to go back up next year. But those 592 motor coaches that we were able to account for resulted in, next slide, 26,000 passengers coming in, which was a 1.4% increase in the number of people that traveled on those motor coaches, and resulted in a slightly smaller room night count than we had before, 6,200 hotel rooms, where we had 6,600 in 2014. we continue to work this market. It is lucrative for Oklahoma City, and we think there are additional activities available here, and some of the great exhibitions that we are able to have here, like Fabergé right across the street in the Museum of Art, that this will continue to be a good market for us. Equine events. We're, of course, getting ready for the opening of the State Fair this week, and coming out of that, we'll be into the fall horse show season. It's very important to us. We have added one show. We've talked about that will be here next July, which is the Arabian Youth World Championships, and that means more money coming into Oklahoma City this year. In 2015, about $236 million in direct spending in the Oklahoma City metro area, or in Oklahoma City, I should say, as a result of these shows. So we continue to see great results there. Marketing and communications. How are we telling people about what's going on here? Our total website visits up to almost 1,200,000 unique website visits. That's unique individuals that have actually gone on our website to check out Oklahoma City. And we see that continuing to grow as we have just recently introduced what's called a responsive website. What that means is that no matter what you are using, whether it's an iPhone, an iPad, a desktop computer, you'll see the same website on all of them, because it's one website that changes the way it's formatted depending on what instrument you're using to look at it. That means we only have to keep track of one website, which is much easier to do and much more comprehensive than having a mobile site or other things that we have had to do in the past. We still pitch stories to travel writers. They still exist, and they still are very instrumental in the success of every city. This year, we pitched 48 stories to people that were looking for activities in Oklahoma City to write about, or to talk about, or to blog about. The delivery of these is much different than it used to be. It's no longer just a print piece in National Geographic, which is still wonderful, but now you have all kinds of social media outlets, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and who knows what else. And so there's a lot of avenues to get those out, and we continue trying to increase those. In addition to the ones that we actually pitched, we also assisted 81 people with stories that they had identified they wanted to write a story about Oklahoma City and this particular aspect of what we're doing here. How could we help them? And so we worked with another 81 people on those, over 100% increase. Overall, we had a very good year. What you will see, technology, I know. Hotel motel tax collections up not quite 4% for the fiscal year. From just over 14 million to 14.6 million. I will tell you, through the first 2 months of this next fiscal year, we're up about 4.7%. So we can continue to see increases here, and hopefully we'll be able to sustain that through the remainder of the 16 fiscal year. Room nights, our supply increased by about a little over 4%. 5.6 up to 5.9 million room nights available for rent in Oklahoma City. We actually sold 3,794,000 room nights, a record year. So there's still demand. There's still increases in demand, and we continue to work to do something there to try to get people here. Those stats come from Smith Travel Research, which is a great group of folks to work with. They'll be here next week to do a forecast for this current fiscal year. Total hotel room revenue, a little over $323 million. That's just in rooms. That does not count food and beverage or any ancillary expenses that people pay while they're staying in a hotel. So we continue, again, to see those increases. And frankly, these last two slides were a reason why we continue to see the growth we see in hotels. Why we see the interest in people building hotels here in Oklahoma City, is that this continues to be a good city for the hotel industry and hotel business. CVB initiated room nights. About 10% of the business that comes here is business that the Convention and Visitors Bureau works with. We know there's more than that, but We can't track every individual traveler that looks at our website. There's no way still with all of technology to track absolutely that somebody that looks at our website actually comes here. People are working on that, but we still can't do it. So these are our group rooms. It's events that we have been involved in. So we feel very good about that. And in fact, that is a record for the CVB over our more than 40 years of annual room night production. So very pleased with what's going on, very pleased with your support. I want to take just a couple of minutes and show you what we have done over the course of this last year that is moving us forward. I talked a minute ago about the changes in how we promote. It used to be that everything was either print or television. Well, today, there's a lot less print. We're dealing with a wide variety of people who look in a lot of different ways. And what we have found out through research is that our primary target is the decision maker that says this is where we're going, and that is a 25 to 35-year-old mother who is active on the internet or on social media and is looking for information about where she's going to take her family for a getaway weekend or whatever they want to do. To do that, you have to have really good content, and you have to have a vibrant economy and a vibrant community, and you can't show that with printed words on a page. So all of us are getting more and more into video content, and I'd like to show you just real quickly 3 different videos. The first one is kind of an overall video that talks about several parts of Oklahoma City, and this is available on our website, on YouTube, on a number of different outlets. And when you have a hashtag of COKC, this is the kind of thing you have to be doing to let people actually see it to help make their decisions. It's active. It shows a lot about what is going on here. You'll notice in that there were a number of things missing. That's only half of the story, and we're right now out shooting more video over a 2 to 3 week period that will be melded into this and into other videos that will show other parts of Oklahoma City in our OK Seeing is Believing campaign and be available in a variety of formats. One of the things we've also done is to take what you saw there and put together individual videos about parts of the city. The next one I want to show you real quickly is a piece about Midtown Oklahoma City, and we're doing this for all of the districts and areas around the city to give you a little bit more flavor for what goes on there. We'll have videos of this nature on every area of Oklahoma City: Automobile Alley, Bricktown, Stockyards, the Plaza, the Paseo, all over the place. And the background music for that came from the Academy of Contemporary Music. Austin isn't the only place that has its own music. We have it too. One last real quick video, and part of the challenge with this is that those videos are heavy production. It takes a long time to shoot them, to edit them, to do all the production involved. We have our own videographer on our staff now, and so we will be able to literally go out at a moment's notice and shoot things that are going on today, right now. And he has the ability to then come back to our office, edit that, and by no later than tomorrow morning, have it up on the internet, up on social media, telling people what's going on. We're also doing a video blog that our videographer and another member of our staff are doing. So here's an example of the kind of thing we will be able to do on a very granular level to show people what's exciting and what's happening in Oklahoma City. This is an introduction to Brickopolis. The new way of promoting Oklahoma City and cities all over the country, and we're glad to be at the forefront of it and doing things to get people to come here. Thank you all again for your support. We appreciate very much what you do to support us and help us have a great city to sell. Be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
I got one. You got plans to do an adventure district video? Because if you're targeting moms from 25 to 35,
Oh, yeah.
I know whenever we plan a vacation, we're always checking out the city's science museum and their zoo. So, and ours is actually better than any of the ones that we've gone to in other cities.
Well, in that first video, part of the overview in there were shots from Curiosity and the zoo. And so, yes, we will be doing a adventure district, and I don't know what all they have actually already edited out, by district, but several of them are already available. I picked 3 just to show you today. But yes, adventure district, all of the districts around the city, and then having our own videographer, we can actually go up there and focus just on Curiosity in the Science Museum, or the one particular part of the zoo, or softball. We can do something on the World Series or some of the age group championships. We can tell those stories also, and that's exactly what we're doing.
All right. Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, in deference to the number of people who have signed up for citizens to be heard, why don't we put off the next presentation until the next council meeting?
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll move on to citizens to be heard. I just was handed one from Edith Burns. Edith, are you here? Edith, the reason I'm starting with you is that you were here to talk about a zoning case that's already been voted on. You're still welcome to come up and speak, but it has already been voted upon. It's the Plaza District multifamily issue.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Edith Burris, and I'm here speaking on behalf of Gay Pearson, which is in the hospital, and you say y'all had already voted on the zoning for Spud 829. Well, the reason why I'm speaking is because they have already moved in over in that private area which she owned, and they've taken up some space, so it's making the space smaller for the residents who are renting the property there. Over on 16th and Northwest McKinley and 15th and McKinley.
Am I referring to the same one, Spud 829? It is the same one? Okay. And I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding the issue. Is this a police issue or someone in our planning department?
They've already started building there, and it's closing in on the property that is owned by a private owner there.
Okay,
She
Jim, you
owns
want to have
that
staff look into
residence.
this?
We'd be happy to have staff look into that, although.
Okay.
Then we'll give you a call, Edith, all right, and let you know
Okay,
what we
I sure
figured
will
out.
appreciate it. Thank
Okay.
you all so much.
You bet. We have a number of other people that have signed up to speak. I'll ask them to keep their comments to 3 minutes. Sarah Adams Cornell. Good morning, Sarah.
Can I give handouts?
You can,
to
and then we'll
Pastor?
need your name and address
Okay.
for the record.
My name is Sarah Adams Cornell, and I live at 2833 Northwest 43rd Street in Oklahoma City. Good morning, honorable members of the Oklahoma City City Council. I sincerely appreciate your time and consideration today. Like I said, my name is Sarah Adams Cornell, and I'm a lifetime resident, parent, and citizen of our great city and a member of the Choctaw Nation. I and other members of the community are respectfully requesting your consideration regarding a change from what our city and nation collectively observe as Columbus Day. Specifically, we are requesting a change be made to the observation and designation of Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, making the city of Oklahoma City the fourth major city to appropriately celebrate America's history in a more respectful and factually accurate manner, honorably reflecting the values of Oklahoma City citizens in 2015. While well-intentioned, those who saw Christopher Columbus as a hero and worthy of a federal holiday also believe he discovered America, even though millions of indigenous people inhabited the land. We now know that the crimes committed by Columbus were so heinous that it resulted in an entire population of indigenous people being wiped out. I believe we have an opportunity to come together as a community, as leaders and citizens, to do something great, something that is honorable and befitting our city and its strong Native American people and nations. We can celebrate our thriving cultures, which would exemplify a city that is inclusive to all of its citizens. Adopting Indigenous Peoples Day would mean a great deal to the Native American community and would start important conversation about the history of indigenous people and those who explored here. This change would promote education and collaboration between communities that would only make us stronger. We have much to gain. You will be hearing from other Native American leaders of our community today about different aspects surrounding Christopher Columbus, his legacy, and the holiday in his name. We come from different backgrounds and tribes, but we unite because so many of our people want to see this change. It is a long time coming for us. Ultimately, we want to partner with you, our leaders and other members of our community, to work toward positive progress. We believe that progress can be had by changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. We have drafted a resolution and an information sheet that I just passed out, and we look forward to working with you over the next 2 weeks in the hopes that this will be something that we can vote on September 29th, that you will vote on in your next council meeting. If passed, we will be able to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day 2 weeks later and make history. If you haven't heard, the City Council of Anadarko voted last night to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Let us also lead this change in what I know will be a long line of cities to change this day and honor its Native American people, instead of being the last. Let our city, our home, be the next to embrace all of its citizens in Indigenous Peoples Day. Yakoki, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Georgie Rasco?
Thank you. It's Georgie Rasco, 2206 Northwest 17th Street in Ward 6. I'm here today because Larry already kind of stole my thunder, as he said, but that was fine because he's got a lot of great parties tonight. But tonight is Neighbors Night Out. We have about 94 parties registered that are going on across the city. all of those in neighborhoods that are just getting together to share with each other, to talk with each other, to meet all of their neighbors. So I encourage all of you to go out, shake a lot of hands, kiss a few babies, compliment people on their potato salad, and get in your car and drive to the next one. Went to a fabulous one in Ward 7 this weekend. Medical community has about 400 to 500 people that attend their event pretty much every year. Had a great, great turnout, beautiful day over in Ward 7. It was a great event. Theirs is so big they have to have theirs on the Saturday before. So as we know, the #1 crime prevention tool that all of us have is living in a social neighborhood. More so than private security, ADT, or anything else, the more neighbors you know, the safer your neighborhood's going to be. So tonight is promoting that, and I hope that your neighborhoods see all of you out there. I hope you enjoy it, and we look forward to promoting safer and more beautiful neighborhoods for the rest of the year. Thank you very much.
Right. Thanks, Georgie. Elena Tollate. Good morning.
Hatsiyayati. Good morning, everybody. My name is Elena Tollate. I come from the Caddo Nation, and today I'm going to expand on what Sarah said earlier and share the story of Columbus's atrocities and why exactly he does not deserve to have a holiday. The following quotes I'm going to share with you are all from primary source documents. Columbus arrived in the Caribbean in 1492 and contacted Arawak natives. In his personal journal, he emphasized their hospitality, claiming, "They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want." In his official report to the King and Queen of Spain, he said he would bring them, quote, "as much gold as they need and as many slaves as they ask." In the next couple of years, he laid the foundation for the transatlantic slave trade and committed mass murder against the natives of the Caribbean. Columbus sold Native American sex slaves to his men. In the year 1500, Columbus wrote, "There are plenty of dealers who go about looking for girls. Those from 9 to 10 are now in demand." Michel de Cuneo, a close friend of Columbus, wrote about raping a Native woman. Columbus gave to him as a present in detail, although I've shortened it for the discretion of the audience here. "I took a rope and thrashed her well, for which she raised such unheard of screams that you would have not believed your ears. Finally, we came to an agreement in such a manner that I can tell you that she seemed to have been brought up in a school of harlots." Bartolomé de las Casas started out as a plantation owner in the Caribbean at the time of Columbus, but he turned into a priest and a human rights activist down the road. He spent the rest of his life campaigning against the cruelty of Spanish colonization. Time does not allot me to read the full quotes, but Las Casas documented that the Spaniards cut slices off the natives to test the sharpness of their blades, beheaded natives in contests, threw natives into vats of boiling soap, and there are also accounts of suckling infants being lifted from their mother's breast by Spaniards, only to be dashed headfirst into large rocks. The big picture of the effects of colonization on the native population is captured in this passage by Las Casas. "The newly born died early because their mothers, overworked and famished, had no milk to nurse them, and for this reason, while I was in Cuba, 7,000 children died in 3 months. Some mothers even drowned their own babies from sheer desperation. In this way, husbands died in the gold mines, wives died at work, and children died from lack of milk. And in such a short time, this land, which was so great, so powerful and fertile, was depopulated. My eyes have seen these acts so foreign to human nature, I now tremble as I write." When it became clear that there was no gold left, the natives were taken as slave labor on plantations and died by the thousands from being overworked. In the year 1515, there were perhaps 50,000 Indians left. By 1550, there were 500. A report from the year 1650 shows none of the original Arawaks or their descendants left on the island.
Thanks for coming down. Raylan Russell.
Good morning, Council. I'm obviously not Ray Lynn. She asked me to give you her apologies today. She had to get back to school. But she did leave a packet for you, and she promises to come back and speak to you at another time.
Okay. Thank you. Are you Sarah? Yes. Okay. Jeff Bezdak?
Hi, I'm Jeff Bezdak at 1015 North Broadway, Suite 120 here in Oklahoma City. And I serve at your pleasure on the MAPS 3 Transit and Streetcar Committee, Intermodal Hub Committee. And I was actually coming, not intentionally, but I noticed that the transportation briefing was about to occur but got deferred to the next week. But I thought I might address an opportunity that has arisen through our committee and was actually going to be brought forth by the Gazette tomorrow. So I thought I would actually tell you about it before this opinion piece is written or published. We have the opportunity to substantially improve our existing embarked transit system with a very simple change in programming to our traffic signals. We also need the same sort of signal prioritization for the streetcar to be successful and meet its on-time delivery, which is targeted during peak times between 8 minutes and 12 minutes. When the streetcar system was first proposed, we promoted the fact that signal prioritization would be incorporated into the system, and that was part of the campaign. And at the time, it was thought that this would just be an infrastructure cost as part of the overall project. In that time, because the project has taken so long to come to fruition, we've actually been able to reflect on streetcar systems around the United States, which are doing well and which are not doing well on their on-time performance. The only two cities in the entire United States which are meeting their on-time delivery is Tacoma, Washington, and Tucson, Arizona. And the differentiating factor, one of them, a major one in my opinion, between those systems and the ones that aren't meeting their on-time delivery is signal prioritization. Anytime that you take a transit vehicle, whether it be a bus rapid transit vehicle, or any kind of rail vehicle, and take it out of a protected right-of-way and envelop it with city traffic, you're essentially committing a cardinal sin. So the advantage to riding a transit vehicle has to be made up some way, whether it's through efficiency, such as what I'm describing, or some other manner. What I have discovered is that we have Wi-Fi signals throughout our city, and our city system is primarily smart already. And what I'm advocating for, and our committee chairman, Nathaniel Harding, many of people on our committee, even though we haven't put forward a formal recommendation to you, is that not only the streetcar system have signal prioritization, but the embarked bus system have signal prioritization. Not only would this improve the on-time delivery of the vehicle to the stop, but it could save the city hundreds of thousands of dollars that could be reinvested into the bus system by not having to stop and accelerate, which is when primarily fuel is consumed. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but we have this technology in place right now. It would take a minor investment in programming and a minor investment in making the transponders on our buses communicate to our Wi-Fi traffic signals. And for the motorist, because our city is so large, we're talking about a minor delay that would only occur if someone engaged with a bus, probably 15 seconds for the signal to be delayed for the bus to go through on a green light.
Jeff, I agree with you 110%. I think that it's critical, and I've heard those arguments for a number of years at Railvolution meetings, and there's a meeting coming up at the end of October in Dallas. I think those who went to that meeting would hear a lot of other cities advocating for what you're espousing. Do you think it would be possible to get people to that meeting at the end of October? Because I think they will hear exactly the data that you're suggesting that they'll hear from other cities, not just for the streetcar, but the bus as well.
Well, and we have a bus rapid transit proposal, which is being proffered by Embark's planners. And in discussing with them the bus rapid transit system, you know, right now signal priority is proposed, but it's not planned. This would take actual policy decision to make a priority. And right now, emergency vehicles have immediate priority. Pedestrians have priority if they trigger an actuator. But right now, transit vehicles have to compete with cars.
Jeff, why don't we ask the city manager to give us a report on the possibility of not only the streetcar, but our bus system, because I agree with Jeff that the buses stopping at every stoplight is not a fuel-efficient way to move that system around. So let's see how feasible it is. But Jeff, thanks for bringing it to our attention, especially on the streetcar.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Let's see, where are we? William Gonzalez.
William Gonzalez, 801 Caroline Drive, excuse me, Yukon, Oklahoma. I have two points to make. I went to the community meeting with Mr. Pettis there and the police department. And one of the moderators asked the police chief if the police department had any cognizance of the financial burden that the police department puts on some people. And he said, well, they have no direct correlation, or I mean, he doesn't have anything to do with the amount of fines. But he has said that his officers did not like writing tickets to individuals if they didn't think they could pay them. One of the things that I'm concerned about is like when my son was arrested, the police officer wrote charges on him, city charges and county charges, which made the bond go extremely high. There was no reason for them to do both of them other than trying to punish somebody. You know, if there's no correlation between the amount of fines for the bond for the number of violations you have, then there's just a waste of time for the officer to file that many charges. So for the reason for him filing the charges has to be punitive, not that he was doing anything that. And his statement to me was, we filed them in case the state or the county doesn't prosecute. Well, what's your worry if the county's not going to do it? You're the one that filed the charges to begin with. You're the police officer at Oklahoma City. You should be filing the charges yourself, not against the county. And all it does is just raise the amount of bond. And so that's the reason he did it. Now, my second deal is this country, most everybody says they're founded on a Christian biblical deal. In James 4:17, it states that if to him that knows to do right and doesn't do it, therefore that is sin to him. You know that cop did it wrong, and you know he did.
Sir, can I suggest to you that I can't even listen to what you're saying because of your shirt? I mean, if you might be right or you might be wrong, but when you disparage one of our officers in that way, I can't even hear what you're saying. So I'm just
sorry you feel that way, but I have the right to do this.
I know you do. You absolutely do.
If the police department doesn't do something to an officer for doing something illegal and wrong, I have the right and the duty to come up here and say something about it.
Right, but you're trying to convince me, and I can't even hear what you're saying because you're distracting with that juvenile. I mean, it's not effective. I'm just giving you feedback.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Stephen White. I live at 2716 Northwest 44th Street in Oklahoma City, and I am affiliated with the Tsalagi tribe. I'm also a former employee of Indian Gaming Magazine of Kirkland, Washington, and I come before you today in support of the proclamation and recognition of indigenous peoples in Oklahoma, primarily because our state and the people who live in it are predominantly part of the body of indigenous people. And the main reason I'm for this, beyond my background and my family and friends, but also recognition days benefit Oklahoma City in three ways. One, when you bring elements of celebration to events, such as St. Patrick's Day or Cinco de Mayo, it generates through the food and the venue significant amount of revenue. Also, these events strengthen communities like Neighborhood Night Out as well, as you recognize. And it facilitates education for those who may or may not know elements about Christopher Columbus because they simply were not taught. I bring before you, if you want a copy, it's called the Diary of Christopher Columbus. It was produced by the University of Oklahoma. If you doubt anything in his actual log, which is a legal document, this book has both the Spanish and the English in each margin. So if anyone questions what was said earlier about Christopher Columbus, this is a nice document to reference. The other one I'd like to bring to your attention as far as education is, basically Columbus was last, according to Patrick Hugh. Now, I have a vested interest in this because I'm an amateur archaeologist. I spend time down in Heavener to review the Heavener stone. It's very debatable whether or not Vikings came to Oklahoma about 1,000 years ago. But there are other evidence in our continent where the Vikings did come to Ox Meadows. There's physical evidence of that. And on Banff Island, there's evidence that St. Brendan came close to 1,000 years before Columbus in about the 5th century off of Banff Island, off of Labrador. So there are other explorers, such as St. Brendan, that did not bring any plagues or search of gold or any other nebulous harm to this continent. And his celebration day is on May 17th. So I invite the council to review this support for indigenous people.
Harry Wilson. Looks like Harry left. Michael C. Washington. He left. Joshua Lyons Echo Hawk.
No, good morning. I'm Jasha Lyons Echo Hawk. I'm from the Pawnee and Seminole Nation. I live in Pawnee, Oklahoma. Do you want my physical address?
Yeah.
Okay, 2018 Timber Lane. I am in support of Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm going to echo what Sarah and Elena shared. Columbus Day does not celebrate Indigenous culture. It celebrates the dawn of the intended destruction of Indigenous culture. Columbus Day celebrates a man who veiled himself as a discoverer of sorts and used his own interpretation of religion to conquer, enslave, and murder a race of people in the name of his God, leaders, and country. Through Columbus's own words, via journal excerpts and pure excerpts, I will quickly present the early seeds of Manifest Destiny, as well as provide a brief background of Manifest Destiny. It is this expansionist ideal that has led to complete decimation of tribes of indigenous people through tactics such as the Oklahoma Land Run. This is an attempt for you, Oklahoma City Council, to further evaluate the man behind the holiday in question. According to Columbus's writings, as read in Howard Zinn's book, The People's History of the United States, upon initial discovery of the local indigenous people of now present-day Bahamas, Columbus wrote, "They are," and I quote, "so naive and so free with their possessions that no one who has witnessed them would believe it. They do not bear arms and do not know them. They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want," in quotation. With that last remark, Columbus made that come to fruition, arriving just a year later in 1493 with 17 additional ships, 1,200 men, and a message from God in so many words, convert to Catholicism and give us the gold, or we will kill your families, we will take your land, and we will enslave you. It was also witnessed by Dominican priest Bartolome de las Casas. The Spaniards think nothing of knifing Indians by 10s and 20s. They hang 13 natives at a time in honor of Christ our Savior and 12 apostles. Columbus operated out of Pope Alexander VI's issuance of the bull Inter Cetera, which granted Spain the right to conquer lands that Columbus discovered and future lands in order to strengthen the Christian empire. This doctrine of discovery was used to claim lands and conquer indigenous people through many years, and eventually was written into U.S. law according to the 1823 U.S. Supreme Court case Johnson versus McIntosh. By 1845, nearly 350 years since Columbus set foot in India, the doctrine of discovery became manifest destiny as coined by Democratic leader John L. O'Sullivan. This was used to defend U.S. expansion and claims to new territory. The expansionist tactics stimulated land thirst in the U.S. and proved disastrous for indigenous people, as not only was land lost, but lives lost as well. When Columbus arrived in 1492, there was an estimated 12 to 15 million indigenous people in now present-day USA. By 1890, only about 250,000 survived. That's 98% gone, decimated, extinct. Connecting the dots of Columbus's mentality to manifest destiny, the future yields a light. As of July of this year, the current Pope, Pope Francis, not only apologized, but acknowledged the grave sins of the church committed against Native people. He says, and I quote, "I humbly ask forgiveness, not only for the offense of the church herself, but also for crimes committed against the Native peoples during the so-called conquest of America. I ask you, City Council, will you please evaluate the man behind the holiday and vote yes on this resolution to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day? Thank you."
Thanks, Jason. We have executive session, and we will be back.